もの隠された
Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, whoever you're with, whatever you're doing, however good it feels, however many times you're going to do it, and why you're doing it in the first place, I'm not sure, but I'm just glad you are doing it right here with me right now. I am Legal Vices. This is my channel, Legal Vices. Tonight, though, I am HP Love Racks. That's what we're doing tonight. I've never done anything like this before. We'll have to see how it goes. We'll have to see if you like it. We'll have to see what the response is. We'll have to see what sort of support we get for doing for doing this. Minor grift there, but yeah, if it's worth your while and it's worth my while, we might be able to do some of these things in the future with other things. But I've never done just a full straight up gavel to gavel reading of things, so. We'll see how it goes. I've got a few stories lined up, but we need to do some things. We have a little bit of a housekeeping to do, as always. How are y'all doing? This should be good. I'm looking forward to this. If you're not, I don't care. But this is just Halloween's just around the corner. We've got 88 concurrent views, 94 concurrent viewers. Now people are starting to trickle in a little bit. Hopefully we'll get a lot more. Tell all your friends, send out emails and chats and put it on Twitter and get everybody in here for spooky story time. Let's see. Who do we all have here? Oh, we've got lots of people here. That's good. It's going to be tricky too, because while I'm reading, I won't be able to really monitor chat. So we'll probably have to read a story, and then I'll just kind of scroll back. We'll have a little talk about things, and then we'll move on into the next story. I think that's just about the only way we're going to be able to do it, to be honest. Super chats, I guess we'll have to read those at the end, assuming there's super chats. Oh, it looks like there is super chats because one just came in right now. Just starting us off strong. Jason J bringing the $2 super chat right out of the gate. That's the way to show support and to make sure we do these things like this again. Narf. Gee, brain, what shall we do tonight? Well, you shall watch this right now, and depending on where you are, rewatch it again in the dark when you're all alone. Palmyra Productions, 9 a.m. My brain is barely waking up. Spooky enough. I'm not sure I'm ready for spooky time. Well, like I said, listen to it now, and then later tonight, turn the lights down, grab yourself some popcorn, a little bit of wine. If wine and popcorn are your thing, they're mine. Especially if you pour Tabasco sauce all over the popcorn. That's pretty good. Right. Well, there was a little bit of pre-game action going on here. But first, let's do the whiskey of the day. The drink of the day today is a whiskey. So let's do. Thank you so much. There we go, Jason J. You get we forgot the ship's bell for your super chat. Thank you so much. Well, the drink of the day today is Octomore. Octomore is the peatiest scotch on earth, essentially. Dark stories require dark whiskey. Octomore is brought to you by the amazing folks at the Bruichladdich Distillery on the island of Islay. This is edition 7.2. This was a duty-free exclusive, a travel exclusive bottle. I've had this for about 5 years. It's so good, and I don't want to finish it, but I think we got about this much left. I'm sad. Now, the thing about Octomore is when I say it's the peatiest whiskey available, that's exactly what I mean. Each bottle, each iteration, each in the series is different. This is a unique bottle, of course, because every bottle is unique. I mean, every one of the series. Edition 7.2 is different than 7.1 and 7.3, etc. I think they're up into 13 now or something like that. This is a 58.5% bottle here. Super heavily peated Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. Now, how peaty is it really? I don't know if any of you are familiar with peaty whiskey or peaty scotches from Islay, such as a Lagavulin or Ardbeg. Ardbeg tenure kind of tends to be on the peatier side. Lagavulin tends to be on the smokier side, and the other distilleries are kind of a good mix. But Ardbeg 10 is one of the smokier whiskeys. It has they measure peatiness in phenols per million, little parts of phenol per million. Ardbeg 10 is right around 35 or 40 phenols per million. This particular bottle is aged for 5 years, and it is 208 phenols per million. So we're just shy of about 7-8 times peatier than Ardbeg 10 year. So if that might mean something to some of you, probably doesn't mean a lot to others, but that's what it is. But the taste is not as out of control as you would think. It's very, very nuanced. Let's pour some of this in here, see what happens. Oh, I love this. I mean, right on the nose, you get a hint of the little iodine and gauze that's very much the hallmark of a good peaty whiskey. But there's also some orange, some citrus notes hanging around in the background there. And for nearly 60% alcohol, this is like 58.5, there's not a lot of alcohol sting on the nose. You can feel the oiliness and the heaviness right as soon as it hits your mouth. And then it fills with that very smoky, like campfire, like the remnants of campfire smoke. And that sort of fades into the traditional smoky whiskey, burning rubber, burnt tires, old people, iodine, gauze, Band-Aids. And then the finish, the citrus notes, the orange, very orangey notes in the background that kind of come out as you get into the finish, to where they have these beautiful, just like smoked orange wrapped in burning tire. Oh, what a great whiskey this is. God, I love this. Yeah, see, you'd think that ginger with a soul. I feel like iodine and gauze is not something I want to drink. Trust me, it is. That is so good. If you ever find yourself being offered, or in a bar where they have Octomore and you can afford the pour, because it's pretty expensive. This is about a $220-ish bottle. So if you find it in a bar or something, or if you happen to stumble across a bottle and you can afford it, and you like that, that's a requirement that you like peaty whiskey. Try it. You'll like it. This is what I'm just going to give myself a big, healthy pour of it right now. Oh my God. Well, shit. I think I've got about one more pour in there. Then it's time to say goodbye to this long-held bottle. We'll put that off to the side. And Cherry Reed being super generous, giving 10 Legal Vices memberships. If you're one of the 10 people that are right now getting gifted Legal Vices memberships, boom, give Cherry Reed a big thank you. We see that Danielle got one. Who all got one here? David Nelson, Patrick Hemken, Tammy Holcomb. Good to see you, Tammy. Smopo Vienna, good to see you as well. Hey, everybody. Danielle, Mod Danielle, capital D Danielle, capital D Mod Danielle, because we've got capital D Danielle, capital D Mod Danielle, and lowercase d Mod Danielle. Squad Pro Quo got a membership. Palmyra Productions got one. Len H got one. Fast Group got one, and my screen just scrolled away. Meat Popsicle. Heather M. Fast Group. Thank you so much. Len H. There we go. I think we got everybody. Thank you so much, Cherry Reed, for that generous donation. So what's the deal with H.P. Lovecraft? Hands down, H.P. Lovecraft is generally recognized as one of, if not the greatest horror writers of all time. Rivaled probably only by Edgar Allan Poe. It's kind of a toss-up, but Poe was a heavy, heavy influence on H.P. Lovecraft. And I mean, there's so much. HP stands for Howard Phillips, by the way. It's Howard Phillips Lovecraft. He was born in August of 1890, and he died March 15th, 1937. So he'd been through World War One. A lot of his stories kind of have to have these World War One undertones to them. He hadn't got to World War II yet before he died, but his works are just absolutely influential in horror. So many things in pop culture are based on his writings. Tons of books, tons of games, tons of movies. I mean, God, I don't even know where to start. Like some of the movies we were just talking. Someone was talking here. Was it Mexican Invaders? Someone was talking. Yes, Mexican Invader. I love Lovecraft so much. The Color Out of Space movie with Nicolas Cage is surprisingly good, especially the visual effects. A lot of H.P. Lovecraft works really hard to transform to the movies just because they're so completely out there. But 2019 Color of Space with Nicolas Cage, that was a great movie. Dagon, we're going to be reading the story Dagon. There was a movie Dagon in the early 2000s. Very divisive. Some people think it was great. Other people think it was like it sucked horrifically and they can't imagine how it ever got made. Reanimator, the movie Reanimator, that's based on one of his stories. Of course, the Call of Cthulhu has been made into just countless movies and comics, and there's a whole games, and I mean just the the Cthulhu mythos is just it's ubiquitous. It's just everywhere. Suitable Flesh, the Necronomicon. We all talking the Necronomicon. There's a movie Necronomicon. There's a book Necronomicon. In Army of Darkness and the Evil Dead movies. That was the leather-bound book that was causing all of the problems. Was the Necronomicon, the Dunwich Horror, Whisper in the Darkness, Bride of Reanimator, Castle Freak, Lurking Fear, Color Out of Space. Again, we mentioned that. I'm just kind of going down the list here. Arkham, yeah. Batman, the Arkham Asylum, the Arkham Prison. Arkham is it's a creation of H.P. Lovecraft. That's where the Miskatonic University is set, which, of course, I'm wearing Miskatonic University gear tonight. This is the Miskatonic University School of Literature in Arkham, Massachusetts. Ex ignorantia ad sapientiam. That's from ignorance to wisdom is the motto there. This is my Miskatonic University shirt. And I always have fun when I wear that and go, oh, did you go to that university? I'm like, hell yeah, I did. Look it up online. So yeah, the Miskatonic University in Arkham, Massachusetts was a complete creation of H.P. Lovecraft, which just runs throughout Batman. And yes, I am so excited. I love it. I'm totally geeking out here. There's so much music that's been inspired by Lovecraft as well. From Beyond. Well, we're actually one of the stories we're going to be reading tonight, Kaiser Pineapple. It's From Beyond, so you're in luck. Reanimator is too long to read, but From Beyond is something we're going to be reading tonight. And let's see. Oh dear. Animator Cthulhu 2024. There's currently, if I recall correctly, there's about 25 Lovecraft projects either in pre-production, production, post-production, or planned for the future. So it's just out there. Stephen King was hugely influenced by him as well. But he's also one of the more divisive people out there because he was clearly and unabashedly and very proudly probably one of the most horrifically racist people you will ever come across in your entire life. I mean, he literally hated everybody. I'm pulling up a quote just to show kind of how bad he was as a person. Where did we do? Sorry, I'm scrolling through here. I made a couple of notes. I mean, he literally. I mean, he referred to blacks always in like animalistic terms. He didn't. I mean, he didn't like anybody. He hated the Jews. He thought that one failed artist from Austria was a good little boy. He didn't like Irish people. Didn't like Italian people. For some reason, he didn't like Syrians. I mean, of the Irish, because of the Irish, he said, if the Irish had the right to independence, they would possess it. If they ever gain it, they will possess it until they lose it again. I mean, he's just a horrible person. And someone once said about him, the man was racist against damn near everything that moved. So the man was racist against damn near anything that moved. That's not a joke. I mean, he's a special kind of bad person. Yes, actual Bloomer, that was the name of his cat. It was N-word man. That was the name of his cat. And I had a bet with Chandler Remington how long it would take for someone to bring that up. The answer is 17 minutes. Okay. Yeah, it's literally, if you weren't a white Anglo-Saxon upper middle class Protestant from the right part of Europe, I mean, you were pretty much hated by him. This guy sounds okay. Oh my God, Cheesy Terrian, no! But see, that's what I mean. Even though he was this horrifically bad person as an individual, you can't deny that he was one of the greatest horror writers of all time. So he's a great case for studying that dialectic between, what do we do with someone who is just so inherently bad, but yet has these amazing talents. And of course, he was, even though he's been dead for 90 years, he's been canceled recently. The World of Fantasy, I believe it was, their award used to be a bust. Their statue used to be a bust of H.P. Lovecraft. Not anymore, because he's a horrible person. But what do you do with these people in history? Can you set aside their personal, individual failings, shall we say, and accept their work and appreciate their work for what it is? Or do you just have to discount everything because they happen to be a shitty human being? It's one of those things. And let's see, we got to Palmyra Productions, who's been a member for 2 months, has his mind blown for some reason. Not sure what blew your mind there, but hey, cool. And gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships. If you got one of the Palmyra Productions Legal Vices memberships, I hope you gave him a good shout out and a thanks. If not, do it again. And Cthulhu Riley Wagnach Finagan. Yes, that's well, while we're at it, we can do that. That's a good segue there, which apparently roughly translates to in his house at R'lyeh, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. It's the call of Cthulhu. So he is Rakata-ish. Rabbit Stick, no! Don't say that. Cheesy Terrian has decided to become a new member. Thank you, Cheesy Terrian, for being our newest member of the Clean and Sober crew. Thank you so much. And Cheesy Rabbit Stick also has been the member for 2 months. So thank you for your continued support. Oh, I keep forgetting to do the ship's bell for super chats and whatnot is so new that I keep forgetting to do it. Okay. Well, that's a kind of a big segue into our next deal. I've mentioned it before, and a lot of people, I don't know, either don't care or think I might be joking when I say that my house I have like some shrines essentially set up in my house. My living room is kind of a Witcher shrine. And like behind me is the Dark Souls / Cthulhu / Godzilla shrine. And then my whiskey room is pretty much a Cthulhu shrine. Now here, I don't know how we're going to do this. Just kind of wanted to show you some of the things laying around my house. I just love Lovecraft and the stories. This is on autofocus, so I think I'm gonna have to go out of the screen here. There we go. Yeah. Let's see. How are we going to do this? I can use my toe. Up there, we have Cthulhu Rising. These are all paintings by a French guy named Francois Berenger. These are all limited edition paintings. Down here, we have Cthulhu underwater, wings spread, rising up. And the top here, top center, that's the city of R'lyeh, where we were just talking about where Cthulhu is said to dwell and live. And over here is Cthulhu pursuing the ship in the story over there, I guess, in the Call of Cthulhu. So that's some of the artwork I have. Now I got to reposition the camera again. Hang on. I'm using my toe to do this, so it's a little bit, it's not the most accurate way of doing it. I guess I should just reach over here and grab it. There we go. Get us squared away. Maybe bump us a little bit over here. There we go. And then kick it back against the wall like it should be. Okay. Oh, yes. Cthulhu is much bigger than a Balrog. Cthulhu is said to be about 2 kilometers tall. So, yes, big. Old god. No worries, Joe Choi. What happened? What did Joe Choi do? Joe Choi, what have you done? You're thanking Project Metal for continued support, which you should, because he's been a member for 8 months. Just all hail Cthulhu. Thank you so much for the 8 months of support. Cheesy Terry, oh my God, 10 more Gifted Vices memberships are coming in. Give Cheesy Terrian a super special thanks. And that is so generous and so nice of you. Thank you so much. And also, these are just a few of the things. And of course, my personal favorite of all of my Cthulhu artwork, all of my Lovecraft artwork from the Cthulhu mythos is this painting here, which I broke the frame and I don't have a new frame for it yet. I just haven't found a frame that I think is appropriate for it. So I'm actually tomorrow going to go and have a custom frame made for this so I can put it on the wall. This is a drawing of one of the Cthulhu is one of the elder gods. This is another of the elder gods. Azathoth is this god's name, and this was a custom painting job done by, you'll see right there in the bottom corner, our very own Flux. This was painted by Flux. It was one of my this is my absolute favorite painting, of course, because it was done by Flux. It was done personally, and like I said before, I mentioned it once, or maybe I just mentioned it to her. When I broke the frame it was in, I took this out, and if I'd never broken the frame, I would never have known this. She wrote like a little personal message on the back there. And so this will have a custom frame in the very near future because nothing was working well. And if you like good books, good quality books, look at Easton Press. Easton Press, I have an entire library of Easton Press books in my whiskey room, but one of them is The Complete Fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. It's dark blue leather on the cover with 24 karat gold inlays, 24 karat gold on the spine. The edge is 24 karat gold leaf with a silk bookmark and a satin frontispiece and back piece. Acid-free museum quality paper. It's 1,102 pages long. The Complete Fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. Another one of my prized possessions. You can look them up online. Easton Press. They have some amazing books. Great Success. Yes, it is a very expensive book. I can't remember what it was. It was right around $180, $200, something like that. But that's if there's a fire in my house, that's one of the things that's coming out with me. Even right back here. This is number 1 of 150 little Cthulhu idols. If you've read The Call of Cthulhu, it talks about an idol sitting on top of a stone pedestal. This was an artist's rendition of that. I've got that I keep around. And just a ton of other stuff in the other room. But I've also got my Zippos. This is, there you go. You can see that a little bit. one of my Zippos, actually two Zippos. It's got Cthulhu on it, and it says Riley at the bottom of it. I love my Cthulhu Zippo lighter there. And pipes. I've got several Cthulhu themed pipes, but two of my favorite. One of them was one of the first commissions I ever did. It came in this box. The pipe came in this box, and I mean, I wouldn't expect anybody to know this guy, but it was done by SV Pipe Design, who is generally considered to be the premier, one of, if not the greatest pipe carver in the world, but he doesn't do much work anymore. And he did the Cthulhu symbol, which looks a lot like the Hydra symbol, because the Hydra symbol in the Marvel universe was sort of taken from the Cthulhu mythos itself. And the pipe, first thing, the pipe tamper to tamp down the tobacco is this little version of the idol that would sit atop the pedestal. But this, let's see if we can do this here. This is the pipe that was carved by SV Pipe Design. You can see it there. It's got a big deep bowl on top, little Cthulhu symbol on the bottom, if you can see. Yeah. But yeah, this pipe is one of my, again, if the house catches on fire, this is coming out with me. There we go. I love that pipe. And I guess the last thing I have within arm's reach is the pipe that I'm going to be smoking today. This was done by Lonely Crow Pipes. I don't know if you've seen the raven pipe that I have. I'll probably show that on Tuesday. I have a pipe that's shaped like a raven's head, done by the same guy. But this was a project. I designed this pipe and he carved it. God bless him. This is the custom Cthulhu pipe that I designed, he carved, and I'm just absolutely in love with. So yeah, there we go. That's just kind of that's literally just a few of the things. I've got games, board games and card games and computer games and more books and more artwork and everything. But that's just kind of a few of the things, just to let you know that I really do enjoy H.P. Lovecraft. So I'm looking forward to tonight. And it's about time we got started, I think, because we've killed nearly 30 minutes, just kind of giving you a little bit of a background into H.P. Lovecraft, because the poll, we had the like and subscribe poll today. By the way, hit that like. We've got 226 people here and 152 likes already. Still about 70 of you haven't done your job. Get down there, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button, because we're going to get underway. And the like and subscribe poll today is, are you familiar with H.P. Lovecraft? 14% of you said you've read everything. 24% of you said you'd read some, seen some movies. I throw in games and stuff like that in there as well. I've heard of him, but that's it. It says 32% of you, and 30% say who. So there's 60% have heard of him, but that's it, and or don't know him at all. More than half of you aren't familiar with his works. So I thought this would be a fun project. So again, like I said, we'll get into the stories now. We'll be doing some things. There might be some bit of boomerang as we deal with certain, because again, this is all brand new to me, and I have no idea if this is going to work or what. We're just going to play it by ear and have a good time, I hope. Something is making Lady Magdala sad. What's making Lady Magdala sad? I don't know. Don't be sad. Whatever it is. I need to find the hubby's Lovecraft book. I don't want it lost, and should be with my Poe and Shakespeare leather books. Yes, that's exactly where mine's right next to my Poe books. Righto. There is a theory that octopoids are actually aliens due to them being so distinct from all other forms of life, and a lot smarter than most of them too. And Eileen. My tea is ready. Raining hard out. Ooh, that's perfect. Raining hard out is perfect for the story. Raining hard out, and I'm back in bed. You may begin. Well, thank you. I was waiting for your permission. So I think we'll do that. Give me a minute here to set the mood. I think we should start by lighting a candle. It's always good to light a candle. Get a nice candle going down here. And let me douse the lights a little bit here. I'm gonna put my camera here. As you can see, this is HP Loverax there in the mod here. Let me turn down the lights. Ooh, spooky. And let's turn up the light on the camera just enough so that we can be seen. We're gonna have to start the camera for this so I can actually see the camera. Ooh, how's that for spookiness? A little dark. Let's lighten it up just a touch more. Ooh, we went too far. You always go too far. Well, that wasn't the right button, now was it? That went way black. All right. Lighter, 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 lighter. Okay. Advocate. It can be spooky and sexy, Jeff. It's also out of focus, Jeff. Hey, camera, over here. Hey, camera, look at me. Focus on me. Hey. All right, remove the dogs from underfoot. Right. This camera's doesn't want to focus in the dark, does it? Let me just do this real quick. Hi, camera, focus on me. There we go. Right, well, fuck, that didn't help, did it? Hey, jazz hands. Hey, spooky me. Hey, jazz hands. Well, that's the opposite of what I wanted to do. It was working fine when I tested it, but it doesn't seem to want to do it now. Let's see if we can back this up slowly. There we go. Back up. Stay with. See the scar on my hand there, can't you? Oh, focus on the hand. Talk to the hand, bitches. Bring it back. Bring it back. No, don't fail me now. Bring it back. Okay. Right, well, shit. Don't tell me I'm going to have to turn on the... Well, because with manual focus, I turned the manual focus off because I was doing so many things with it. But one more crack and then we'll put it on manual focus. Shit. Hey, look, it's me, camera. Please don't go anywhere. Please stay here, focus on my stupid, ugly mug, but it's probably not going to because I'm going to stretch. Shit. All right. No. There. Fine. Perfect. There we go. Now just don't move, Loverax. Right. Finally. Right. Here we are. Now I guess we should light ourselves a little bit of a pipe. We've got ourselves a nice pour of whiskey to imbibe from occasionally. And settle in for a nice story. Got to set the mood. And stop hitting the microphone. The first story we're going to read is H.P. Lovecraft's shortest short story. And we're going to get through I hope we get through at least 9 stories. If we get through more, great. If we're having a good time and you want me to stick around for a little bit, it's Friday night here, so I can stick around a little bit if it's what you want to do. Right. So for the first story, we're going to take me off screen, which I hope doesn't screw up the autofocus, because this is a dark story that involves not me. Let's see. All Hail Cthulhu, says Project Metal again. We read that. We read Eileen's and Natasha. We shall summon Cthulhu. Well, I hope not, because he wouldn't fit in my apartment. It's full of bulldogs already. Thank you so much for your super chat. When you plan to summon the Elder Ones, things of madness start to happen. Yes, they do, Natasha. Thank you so much again. Thank you for your support. Right. So, for this story, we'll turn off the camera and leave it as black as we can. This story, as I said, is the shortest story of H.P. Lovecraft. It's called Memory.
In the valley of Myth, the accursed waning moon shines thinly, tearing a path for its light with feeble horns through the lethal foliage of a great upas tree. And within the depths of the valley, where the light reaches not, move forms not meet to be beheld. Rank is the herbage on each slope where evil vines and creeping plants crawl amidst the stones of ruined palaces, twining tightly about broken columns and strange monoliths, and heaving up marble pavements laid by forgotten hands. And in the trees grow gigantic, in crumbling courtyards leap little apes, while in and out of deep treasure vaults writhe poisonous serpents and scaly things without a name. Vast are the stones which sleep beneath coverlets of dank moss, and mighty were the walls from which they fell. For all time did their builders erect them, and in sooth they yet serve nobly, for beneath them the grey toad makes his habitation. At the very bottom of the valley lies the river Than, whose waters are slimy and filled with weeds. From hidden springs it rises, and to subterranean grottos it flows, so that the demon of the valley knows not why its waters are red, nor whither they are bound. The genie that haunts the moonbeams spake to the demon of the valley, saying, I am old and forget much. Tell me of the deeds and aspect and name of them who built these things of stone. And the demon replied, I am memory, and am wise in lore of the past. But I too am old. These beings were like the waters of the river Than, not to be understood. Their deeds I recall not, for they were but of the moment. Their aspect I recall dimly, for it was like to that of the little apes in the trees. Their name I recall clearly, for it rhymed with that of the river. These beings of yesterday were called man. So the genie flew back to the thin-horned moon, and the demon looked intently at a little ape in a tree that grew in a crumbling courtyard. That was Memory.
The shortest story by H.P. Lovecraft. RL, that was an AI rendering of me over H.P. Lovecraft. So that's the first story, and that kind of sets the mood for a lot of what Lovecraft was up to. He was up against humans in these types of situations, in horrible situations, humans that got themselves involved in problems, dark, scary things, and also the elder gods, the gods out there, in the vastness of time and space, and how they interact with us tiny little beings that are just a blip in the millions of eons of the history of the old gods. The next story that we'll read is about one of the elder gods, a god named Azathoth. He has all these great old sounding names for his gods. This is the story of the god Azathoth. I'm not sure if you want to look at me or if you want to look at HP Love Racks or not, but we'll do this one. We'll do it this way. But first, let's see. Now let's see what we're looking at here. We've got a couple of things that I starred. I said, voted I read everything in the poll, but I cheated by mostly listening to the audiobooks. That's not cheating. That's the audiobooks are books. I listen to audiobooks all the time. Every time I'm driving or walking or exercising, I'm listening to audiobooks. Bush McFadden said, let me give a brief synopsis of the eldritch horrors in Lovecraftian fiction. It's too scary. I can't describe it. You wouldn't be able to comprehend how terribly terrifying it is. It's indescribable. Okay. Bush McFadden has clearly read Lovecraft because that's one of the tropes that he uses. Some people call it a cheat. Some people call it a device to say, oh, it was an indescribable horror. I don't know if that makes it scarier or less scary, but that is definitely a crutch or a plan that he uses, depending how you look at it. So good morning, Vice Squad. Who is up for some eldritch horror delving into the mouth of madness today? All of us are. That's why we're here, Kaiser. Good to see you, brother. Tony G, I've played the Lovecraft video games, but it wasn't in the poll option. Well, the books and everything that encompasses the games. And Natasha with the third super chat of the day. Thought we'd give you the big horn just to keep you on your toes. Within 5 stories, would Vices push the limits of maintaining his sanity or lose himself to the arms of Arkham Asylum? Well, we'll find out, but I'm probably there anyway already. Oh dear. All right, let me get this set up for the next story. A second, I have to get one urgent piece of work out of the way that's ruining the mood. All right, there. I'm supposed to be in a Zoom meeting. I went there, but it was too late. All right. Azathoth, one of the old gods. Azathoth by H.P. Lovecraft. When age fell upon the world, and wonder went out of the minds of men, when gray cities reared to smoky skies, tall towers grim and ugly, in whose shadow none might dream of the sun or of the spring's flowering meads, when learning stripped earth of her mantle of beauty, and poets sang no more, save of twisted phantoms seen with bleary and inward-looking eyes. When these things had come to pass, and childish hopes had gone away forever, there was a man who traveled out of life on a quest into the spaces whither the world's dreams had fled. Of the name and abode of this man but little is written, for they were of the waking world only, yet it is said that both were obscure. It's enough to know that he dwelt in a city of high walls, where sterile twilight reigned, and that he toiled all day among shadow and turmoil, coming home at evening to a room whose one window opened not on the fields and groves, but on a dim court, where other windows stared in dull despair. From that casement, one might see only walls and windows, except sometimes when one leaned far out and peered aloft at the small stars that passed. And because more walls and windows must soon drive to madness a man who dreams and reads much, the dweller in that room used night after night to lean out and peer aloft to glimpse some fragment of things beyond the waking world and the grayness of tall cities. After years, he began to call the slow-sailing stars by name, and to follow them in fancy when they glided regretfully out of sight, till at length his vision opened to many secret vistas whose existence no common eye suspects, and one night a mighty gulf was bridged, and the dream-haunted skies swelled down to the lonely watcher's window to merge with the close air of his room and make him a part of their fabulous wonder. There came to that room wild streams of violet midnight, glittering with gold dust, vortices of dust and fire, swirling out of the ultimate spaces and heavy with perfumes from beyond the worlds. Opiate oceans poured there, litten by suns that the eye may never behold, and having in their whirlpools strange dolphins and sea nymphs and unrememberable deeps. Noiseless infinity eddied around the dreamer and wafted him away without even touching the body that leaned stiffly from the lonely window. And for days not counted in men's calendars, the tides of far spheres bear him gently to join the dreams for which he longed. The dreams that men have lost. And in the course of many cycles, they tenderly left him sleeping on a green sunrise shore, a green shore fragrant with lotus blossoms and starred by red camelots. That's the end of this very, very short story, Azathoth. They don't actually mention the god Azathoth in the story Azathoth, but that was the beginning of what H.P. Lovecraft called the dream cycle. He wrote lots and lots of stories about dreams and people moving on dreams and you traveling to other dimensions, other worlds, other realms of existence on dreams. H.P. Lovecraft co-wrote Under the Pyramids with Harry Houdini. Under the Pyramid is actually one of my favorite stories. I say if we have some extra time, that's one that I want to read. That may actually have been the first Lovecraft story I ever read. Oh, Vincent Price read some Lovecraft. I did not know that. Yes, Radagast. We talked about The Color Out of Space a little bit earlier. That was actually a pretty darn good recreation of the story. The Dunwich Horror is probably my second favorite story. My favorite Lovecraft story is Shadow over Innsmouth. But both the Dunwich Horror and Shadow over Innsmouth are unfortunately too long to read in one stream. Oh yeah, opioids are a big part of this. I'm pretty sure Lovecraft imbibed in some himself, because normal people don't think like this. So, before we move on, one question. Do you like, one, if you like the spooky ambient music in the background, two, if you like no spooky music in the background? Let's do a quick vote here. I wanted to read one with and one without to see what you thought. One for spooky background, two for no spooky background. Oh, it looks like it's about a toss-up. Oh my gosh. All right, it looks like ones are slightly edging out. So I think we'll do some with and some without. But I will turn down the volume just a touch. All right, so let's do that. Now, we talked earlier about the Necronomicon being the Book of the Dead, supposedly wrapped in human flesh and containing deep, dark secrets and spells. A copy of which is supposedly residing in the library at Miskatonic University. And so we're gonna read a little story. It's kind of a historical story, the history of the Necronomicon. Yes, written in human blood, etc., etc. All the spooky things. Yes, Klaatu, Barada. Yes, that Necronomicon. If you know, you know. All right. Our third story. Let's read this. This isn't particularly scary. It's more of a I said, a historical fiction. The History of the Necronomicon by H.P. Lovecraft. Original title, Al-Azif. Azif being the word used by Arabs to designate that nocturnal sound made by insects, supposed to be the howling of demons. Composed by Abdul al-Hazred, the mad poet of Sana'a in Yemen, who is said to have flourished during the period of the Umayyad Caliphs, circa 700 AD. He visited the ruins of Babylon and the subterranean secrets of Memphis and spent 10 years alone in the great southern desert of Arabia, the Roba el Khaliya, or empty space of the ancients, and Dana, or crimson desert of the modern Arabs, which is held to be inhabited by protective evil spirits and monsters of death. Of this desert, many strange and unbelievable marvels were told in those who pretend to have penetrated it. In the last years, Al-Hazred dwelt in Damascus, where the Necronomicon Al-Azif was written. And of his final death or disappearance in 730 AD, many terrible and conflicting things are told. He is said by Ibn Khaldun, 12th century biographer, to have been seized by an invisible monster in broad daylight and devoured horribly before a large number of fright-frozen witnesses. Of his madness, many things are told. He claimed to have seen fabulous Irem, or city of pillars, and to have found beneath the ruins of a certain nameless desert town the shocking annals and secrets of a race older than mankind. He was an only indifferent Muslim, worshipping unknown entities whom he called Yog-Sothoth and Cthulhu. In 950, the Azif, which had gained a considerable though surreptitious circulation amongst the philosophers of the age, was secretly translated into Greek by Theodorus Philetus of Constantinople under the title Necronomicon. For a century, it impelled certain experimenters to terrible attempts, when it was suppressed and burnt by the patriarch Michael. After this, it's only heard of furtively, but in 1228, Olaus Wormius made a Latin translation later in the Middle Ages, and the Latin text was printed twice, once in the 15th century in black letter, evidently in Germany, and once in the 17th century, probably Spanish, both editions being without identifying marks, and located as to time and place by internal typographical evidence only. The work, both Latin and Greek, was banned by Pope Gregory IX in 1232, shortly after its Latin translation, which called attention to it. The Arabic original was lost as early as Wormius's time, as indicated in his prefatory note, and no sight of the Greek copy, which was printed in Italy between 1500 and 1550, has been reported since the burning of a certain Salem man's library in 1692. Salem witch trials. An English translation made by Dr. D was never printed and exists only in fragments recovered from the original manuscript. Of the Latin texts, now only existing one from the 15th century is known to be in the British Museum under lock and key, while another 17th century is in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris. A 17th century edition is in the Widner Library at Harvard and in the Library of Miskatonic University at Arkham. Also in the Library of the University of Buenos Aires. Numerous other copies probably exist in secret, and a 15th century one is persistently rumored to form part of the collection of a celebrated American millionaire. A still vaguer rumor credits the preservation of a 16th century Greek text in the Salem family of Pickman. But if it was so preserved, it vanished with the artist R.U. Pickman, who disappeared early in 1926. The book is rigidly suppressed by the authorities of most countries and by all branches of organized ecclesiasticism. Reading leads to terrible consequences. It was from rumors of this book, of which relatively few of the general public know, that R.W. Chambers is said to have derived the idea for his early novel, The King in Yellow. That is the history of the Necronomicon by H.P. Lovecraft. I don't know why I like that story, but I just do. I just like it's just taken for read the Necronomicon is actually a real thing, and that it's how it's evolved over history. Yes, mind flayers in the Dungeons and Dragons mythos are just very short Cthulhus. Boris Karloff. I could listen to Boris Karloff read a phone book. No, you must not read from the book. Like a blam, says Adriana. All right. Well, that's the end of our third story. Our fourth story is Nyarlathotep. We're moving to Egypt for this story. Let's see. Going back here through the chat. Dead by dawn, dead by dawn. You guys rock. And some of you are just being childish. The Kwisatz Haderach. No, that's a different story. It's Cthulhu's daddy, Yog-Sothoth, that you got to worry about. Sorry. I woke up Strawberry by dropping Yog-Sothoth on him. Yog-Sothoth by Flux. These stories are shorter than I thought. We might get well beyond our planned for 9. The mask of self-deception was no longer a mask for me. It was part of me, for I knew that the king in yellow had opened his tattered mantle, and there was only God to cry to now. Thank you, Mike and M. Flux, love you, Jeff. Oh, hey, I love you and your painting, Flux. We're coming up on your story soon. If you want to talk about Dune, that's an Andrew stream. Why is that an Andrew stream? I am the master of Dune. Dune is actually my favorite science fiction series. I usually read the entire series, all 6 of the books. The other books don't exist. At least once a year. It's been about 2 years, though. I think I'd say once every 2 years. Dune is a fantastic book, and it's one of those series that usually sequels suck, but the sequels get better and better and better. And the final book, Chapter House Dune, is probably one of the greatest socioeconomic political novels that's ever been written. We can talk about Dune one of these days. We can have Dune streams. But yes, I am the master of Dune. Daniel says, "Oh, you should do a Dune stream with Andrew." I didn't know that Andrew was into Dune. But, yeah, and I'm just waiting until March when Dune 2 comes out. God Emperor Dune, great book. See, the books just get better as they go along. Only the 6 books. The books that his idiot son and stupid Kevin J. Anderson wrote are just abominations and should be burnt. And I'm not a book burner at all. Lovecraft, count me in. Are you doing the Pistache of Sherlock Holmes, A Study in Emerald? No, the pastiche, sorry. What did I say? Did I say pistache? I want some peanuts. The pastiche of Sherlock Holmes, A Study in Emerald? No, we are not. I'll hail the master of Dune. Lord God, Emperor of Dune, that's me. And McCaffrey is fantasy, not science fiction. And all 947 Dragon Riders books are among my favorite fantasy novels. But Anne McCaffrey, fantasy, Dune, science fiction. Rip Anne McCaffrey, seriously. The book that she wrote, I only read one book that she co-wrote with her son, but it wasn't too bad. But McCaffrey is it. Dune Messiah, best. They're great. They're all great books. They're all so super. Anyway, this is not a Frank Herbert stream. This is an H.P. Lovecraft stream. Focus. All right. Nyarlathotep. That's where we're going. See, we currently have how many people? 237 concurrent viewers, 207 likes, 208 likes now. That's great. Thank you. And how are we doing on our poll here? Probably hasn't changed much because we haven't had much of a turnover. Basically the same thing. 16% read everything. 26% have read some or heard or played games, etc. I've heard of him, says 31%, and who says 28%. So 59% still are either who or have just heard about it. So we'll continue and educating people and letting you experience H.P. Lovecraft as we go along. Time for another drink. Have we gotten to From Beyond yet? I had to no. From Beyond is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories from 6 stories from now. So we'll get there. Hocus Pocus, Jeff must focus. Okay. Nyarlathotep. Try that again. Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos. I am the last. I will tell the audient void. I do not recall distinctly when it began, but it was months ago. The general tension was horrible. To a season of political and social upheaval was added a strange and brooding apprehension of hideous physical danger, a danger widespread and all-embracing. Such a danger as may be imagined only in the most terrible phantasms of the night. I recall that the people went about with pale and worried faces and whispered warnings and prophecies which no one dared consciously repeat or acknowledge to himself that he had heard. A sense of monstrous guilt was upon the land, and out of the abysses between the stars swept chill currents that made men shiver in dark and lonely places. There was a demonic alteration in the sequence of the seasons. The autumn heat lingered fearsomely, and everyone felt that the world, and perhaps the universe, had passed from the control of known gods or forces to that of gods or forces which were unknown. And it was then that Nyarlathotep came out of Egypt. Who he was, none could tell, but he was of the old, native blood and looked like a pharaoh. The Fellahin knelt when they saw him, yet could not say why. He had risen up out of the blackness of 27 centuries, and he had heard messages from places not on this planet. Into the lands of civilization came Nyarlathotep, swarthy, slender, and sinister, always buying strange instruments of glass and metal, and combining them into instruments yet stranger. He spoke much of the sciences of electricity and psychology, and gave exhibitions of power which sent spectators away speechless, yet which swelled his fame to exceeding magnitude. Men advised one another to see Nyarlathotep and shuddered. And where Nyarlathotep went, rest vanished. For the small hours were rent with the screams of nightmare. Never before had the screams of nightmare been of such public problem. Now the wise men almost wished they could forbid sleep in the small hours, that the shrieks of cities might less horribly disturb the pale, pitying moon as it glimmered on green waters, gliding under bridges and old steeples crumbling against a sickly sky. I remember when Nyarlathotep came to my city, the great, the old, the terrible city of unnumbered crimes. My friend told me of him, and of the impelling fascination and allurement of his revelations. And I burned with eagerness to explore his uttermost mysteries. My friend said they were horrible and impressive beyond my most fevered imaginings. That which was thrown on a screen in the darkened room prophesied things none but Nyarlathotep dared prophesy. And that in the sputter of his sparks, there were taken from men that which had never been taken before, yet which showed only in the eyes. And I heard it hinted abroad that those who knew Nyarlathotep looked on sights which others saw not. It was in the hot autumn that I went through the night with restless crowds to see Nyarlathotep. Though the stifling night and the endless stairs into a choking room, and shadowed on a screen, I saw hooded forms amidst ruins, and yellow, evil faces peering from behind fallen monuments. And I saw the world battling against blackness, against the waves of destruction from ultimate space, whirling, churning, struggling around the dimming, cooling sun. Then the sparks played amazingly around the heads of the spectators. Their hair stood up on end, while shadows more grotesque than I can tell came out and squatted on the heads. And when I, who was colder and more scientific than the rest, mumbled a trembling protest against imposture and static electricity, Nyarlathotep drove us all out, down the dizzying stairs into the damp, hot, deserted midnight streets. I screamed aloud that I was not afraid, that I never could be afraid, and others screamed with me for solace. We swore to one another that the city was exactly the same and still alive. And when the electric lights began to fade, we cursed the company over and over again and laughed at the queer faces we made. I believe we felt something coming down from the greenish moon, for when we began to depend on its light, we drifted into curious involuntary formations and seemed to know our destinations, though we dared not think of them. Once, we looked at the pavement and found the blocks loose and displaced by grass, with scarce a line of rusted metal to shew where the tramways had been. And around the horizon, and again we saw a tramcar, lone, windowless, dilapidated, and almost on its side. When we gazed around the horizon, we could not find the third tower by the river, and noticed that the silhouette of the second tower was ragged at the top. Then we split up into narrow columns, each of which seemed drawn in different directions. One disappeared in a narrow alley to the left, leaving only the echoes of a shocking moan. Another filed down a weed-choked subway entrance, howling with a laughter that was mad. My own column was sucked towards the open country, and presently felt a chill, which was not of the hot autumn. For as we stalked out on the dark moor, we beheld around us a hellish moon glitter of evil snows, trackless, inexplicable snows, swept asunder in one direction only, where lay a gulf all the blacker for its glittering walls. The column seemed very thin indeed as it plodded dreamily into the gulf. I lingered behind, for the black rift in the green-litten snow was frightful, and I thought I heard the reverberations of a disquieting wail as my companions vanished. But my power to linger was slight. As if beckoned by those who had gone before, I half floated between the titanic snowdrifts, quivering and afraid, into the sightless vortex of the unimaginable. Screamingly sentient, dumbly delirious, only the gods that were there can tell, a sickened, sensitive shadow writhing in hands that are not hands, and whirled blindly past ghastly midnights of rotting creation, corpses of dead worlds with sores that were cities, charnel winds that brush the pallid stars and make them flicker low. Beyond the worlds, vague ghosts of monstrous things, half-seen columns of unsanctified temples that rest on nameless rocks beneath space and reach up to dizzying vacua above the spears of light and darkness. And through this revolting graveyard of the universe, the muffled, maddening beating of drums and thin, monotonous whine of blasphemous flutes from inconceivable, unlighted chambers beyond time. The detestable pounding and piping, wherein to dance slowly, awkwardly, and absurdly the gigantic, tenebrous ultimate gods, the blind, voiceless, mindless gargoyles whose soul is Nyarlathotep. That was Nyarlathotep by H.P. Lovecraft. Well, I always had to stop and figure out how to pronounce the names when reading. If they didn't become funny to me while reading and I'd lose immersions, I often wonder if he just spelled with a lisp. Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep, yeah, right. So nice to see a fellow cultist sharing his madness. Said Lizard Sauce in the Berg. Nice to see you, Lizard Sauce. Lizard Sauce. I like that. In the Berg. Nice to see you. Wolfman, is this children's book? Yes, this is a children's book. All children should have H.P. Lovecraft read to them before they go to sleep. Interestingly enough, a little bit of Halloween trivia. Clive Barker Come on, quickly, people. Clive Barker, movie, 1981, I believe. What's the movie? Everybody knows it. Hellraiser. Boom, you are correct. Leafy Fifi Foo. Hellraiser. Clive Barker. He wasn't. I don't think Clive Barker was born in the U.S. Let me check this here real quick. Too dark. I can't find home on my keyboard. Ooh, don't bring up that screen. Clive Barker. He was born in the UK. His grandmother was from somewhere in like Eastern Europe. I can't remember where she was from. But Clive Barker tells the story of how he came up with the idea of Pinhead for Hellraiser. He said that his grandmother would tell him stories of Pinhead every night before he went to sleep, which usually ended with, if you don't go to sleep right now, Pinhead will get you. So yeah, I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of reading Lovecraft to children just before they go to sleep. And Kaiser Pineapple says, Legal Vice is funny enough. My leather-bound HP Lovecraft collection is on my son's special bookshelf of books. We're going to read them to him one day. Hey, no better time than the present. I think you should start reading them to him now. Yes, he was from Romania. That's right. Yes. So yeah, his mother would tell him, like, if you don't go to sleep now, Pinhead will get you. Well, that's probably not the best way to get a child to go to sleep, but hey, that's what happened. All right, what are we going to do next? See, we have no super chats to get through. All right. Cough, cough, cough. Super. The next story. The next story is a little bit longer and a little bit more human, let's say. This is a no soundtrack story. Tank Rat bringing the heat, gifting 20 Legal Vices memberships. Tank Rat for the win. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate that. Tank Rat has just gifted 20 Legal Vices memberships. If you were one of the awesome, amazing people here that got one of the 20 gifted Vices memberships, make sure you give Tank Rat the super special thanks that he deserves. Thank you very much, brother. Deeply appreciate it. Wow. Extremely happy simmer. Pinhead is a 0 out of 10. Would not ride that face. Just make sure you get a tetanus shot first. And we get the big horn for Tank Rat. Bernice Conklin is just listening while doing things around the house. I didn't ask for money. I just said there was no super chats to read. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. You can't make a curse out of it. As I said, super chats are guaranteed to get read unless there's something that would get me deplatformed. Right. Neo Dark Matter says you just have to lay on Pinhead like you would a bed of males. Thankfully, you misspelled nails, males, but made it like males, like email or postal mail, and not MALES. Laying on a bed of males might not be so exciting for some of us. Nice lighting, Jeff. Ooh, it's my spooky Halloween candle. I lit like 8 candles, and it was still not bright enough, so I had to do other candles. My house is officially a fire hazard. The hockey goal horn. Iceberg right ahead. All right. Are we ready to move on to the next story? Lighter, more human. No spooky music for this one. Get my. That's the. I have to get myself lubricated. The voice is starting to dry out, so don't want to. I has given us a super chat. Thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Bram Stoker's Dracula or American Werewolf in London, and why? Ooh. See, I'm not a huge Bram Stoker Dracula hater. I'll tell you why in a second. Bram Stoker's Dracula would have been a much better movie without Keanu Reeves, because it was like Bill and Ted go to Romania. Keanu is good at what he does when he's just Keanu. When there's just movies where he's playing Keanu, he's great. John Wick, Bill and Ted, things like that. But Winona Ryder, the chick that played her friend, yeah. And Gary Oldman is just fantastic and everything. People make fun of his makeup. That's not his. He didn't make the costuming, designs and things. But he was so great with his campy, over the top Dracula. But I would have to go with American Werewolf in London for a couple of reasons. One, the practical effects in that when they were changing from like people to werewolves was fantastic. And back when it came out, it was scary as shit. I remember thinking that was just like the scariest thing. Because before that, we had Lon Chaney in The Wolfman, where he would go clean face, like some hair spotches, a little more hair spotches, and go, wearing Wolfman mask. So those practical effects of the snout extending and the bubbling under the flesh was great. And it was a campy movie. They knew it was a campy movie. They made it for camp. And of course, it had Warren Zevon music in it. Any movie that has Warren Zevon music in it is by definition a great movie. So I would have to say Werewolves of London. American Werewolf in London. That's right. I'd have to say American Werewolf in London for those reasons. Kaiser Pineapple agrees that it's an incredible movie, a true classic. All right, let me pour a bit of a non-alcoholic beverage here to whet the whistle. And then we will get into the next story. Bubbles. All right, everybody. So yeah. All right. I hope that answer was a good answer to your question. I have a story. It says haven't done any Lovecraft readings yet, but they're on the list. Oh, I have a story. That sounds as if you have. It sounds as though you have a YouTube channel. I have a story. I have a story. There we go. Oh, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Fredericksburg Ghost Story. The Black Cat. Oh, there you go. Well, see, Tuesday, I'm definitely going to be doing a reading of The Raven. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Glamis Castle Ghost Story. Don't know that one. I have a story. Pop on over and give us subscribe. There's some good. Oh, the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. We've talked about the Mignonette disaster on Maritime Monday, where poor Richard Parker was stabbed to death and eaten by his crew members. We mentioned that Edgar Allan Poe had actually written a story about a young man named with the same name, named poor old Richard Parker, who was unfortunately done in by his crewmates for nutritional purposes. That was in the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. So yes. What a great channel. I have now subscribed to you. I have a story. Thank you so much for alerting me to you. Wow. All right, cool. That sounds fun. Was Poe a cannibal? No, but he was weird, and his biggest fear in life was the fear of being buried alive. And so when he died, he made it a thing that his coffin had to have a hole in it with a string attached to a bell, so that if he woke up in his coffin, he could ring the bell and be saved. That was weirdly his biggest fear in life, was being buried alive. This is a book about a ship called Titanic that was very similar to Titanic. She sank too. Were they talking about the actual same thing? Because the Edgar Allan Poe story about Richard Parker being a young cabin boy who was done away with and eaten by crew members was actually written 20 years before the Richard Parker real guy was murdered and eaten by his shipmates. So, yeah. And right now, by the way, Netflix has a great series, The Fall of the House of Usher. Beautiful, fantastic modernization of several Poe stories all woven together in one. Great stuff. All right, let's move on to our next Lovecraft story. It's that time. It's that time to get into the next Lovecraft story. This story has the highest potential of being boomered because it involves effects. Okay. Our fifth story of the night, our fifth H.P. Lovecraft story is The Statement of Randolph Carter by H.P. Lovecraft. I repeat to you, gentlemen, that your inquisition is fruitless. Detain me here forever, if you will. Confine me or execute me if you must have a victim to propitiate the illusion that you call justice. But I can say no more than I have said already. Everything that I can remember, I have told with perfect candor. Nothing has been distorted or concealed, and if anything remains vague, it is only because of the dark cloud which has come over my mind, that cloud and the nebulous nature of the horrors which brought it upon me. Again, I say, I do not know what has become of Harley Warren, though I think, almost hope, that he is in peaceful oblivion, if there be anywhere so blessed a thing. It is true that I have for 5 years been his closest friend and a partial sharer of his terrible researches into the unknown. I will not deny, though my memory is uncertain and indistinct, that this witness of yours may have seen us together, as he says, on the Gainesville Pike, walking towards Big Cypress Swamp at 11:30 on that awful night. We bore electric lanterns, spades, and a curious coil of wire with attached instruments. I will even affirm, for these things are played a part in all the single hideous scene which remains burned into my shaken recollection. But of what followed, and as the reason I was found alone and dazed on the edge of the swamp next morning, I must insist that I know nothing, save what I have told you over and over again. You say to me that there is nothing in the swamp or near it which could form the setting of that frightful episode. I reply that I know nothing beyond what I saw. Vision or nightmare it may have been. Vision or nightmare, I fervently hope it was. Yet it is all that my mind retains of what took place in those shocking hours after we left the sight of men. And why Harley Warren did not return, he or his shade or some nameless thing I cannot describe, alone can tell. As I've said before, the weird studies of Harley Warren were well known to me, and to some extent shared by me. Of his vast collection of strange, rare books on forbidden subjects, I have read all that are written in the language of which I am master, but these are few as compared with those in languages I cannot understand. Most, I believe, are in Arabic. And the fiend-inspired book which brought on the end, the book which he carried in his pocket out of the world, was written in characters whose like I never saw elsewhere. Warren would never tell me just what was in that book. As to the nature of our studies, must I say again that I no longer retain full comprehension? It seems to me rather merciful that I do not, for they were terrible studies, which I pursued more through reluctant fascination than through actual inclination. Warren always dominated me, and sometimes I feared him. I remember how I shuddered at his facial expressions on the night before the awful happening, when he talked so incessantly of his theory, why certain corpses never decay, but rest firm and fat in their tombs for 1,000 years. But I do not fear him now, for I suspect that he has known horrors beyond my ken. Now I fear for him. Once more, I say that I have no clear idea of our object on that night. Certainly it had much to do with something in the book which Warren carried with him, that ancient book in undecipherable characters which has come to me from India a month before, but I swear I do not know what it was that we expected to find. Your witness says that he saw us at 11:30 on Gainesville Pike, headed for Big Cypress Swamp. This is probably true, but I have no distinct memory of it. The picture seared into my soul is of one scene only. And the hour must have been long after midnight, for a waning crescent moon was high in the vaporous heavens. The place was an ancient cemetery, so ancient that I trembled at the manifold signs of immemorial years. It was in a deep, damp hollow, overgrown with rank grass, moss, and curious creeping weeds, and filled with a vague stench which my idle fancy associated absurdly with rotting stone. On every hand there were signs of neglect and decrepitude, and I seemed haunted by the notion that Warren and I were the first living creatures to invade a lethal silence for centuries. Over the valley's rim, a wan, waning crescent moon peered through the noisome vapors that seemed to emanate from unheard-of catacombs, and by its feeble, wavering beams I could distinguish a repellent array of antique slabs, urns, cenotaphs, and mausoleum facades, all crumbling, moss-grown and moss-stained and partly concealed by the gross luxuriance of an unhealthy vegetation. My first vivid impression of my own presence in this terrible necropolis concerns the act of pausing with Warren before a certain half-obliterated sepulchre, and of throwing down some burdens which we seem to have been carrying. I now observed that I had with me an electric lantern and 2 spades, whilst my companion was supplied with a similar lantern and a portable telephone outfit. No word was uttered, for the spot and the task seemed known to us, and without delay we seized our spades and commenced to clear away the grass, weeds, and drifted earth from the flat, archaic mortuary. After uncovering the entire surface, which consisted of 3 immense granite slabs, we stepped back some distance to survey the charnel scene, and Warren appeared to make some mental calculations. Well, then he returned to the sepulchre, and using a spade as a lever, he sought to pry up the slab lying nearest to a stony ruin which may have been a monument in his day. He did not succeed and motioned to me to come to his assistance. Now, finally, our combined strength loosened the stone, which we raised and tipped to one side. The removal of the slab revealed a black aperture, from which rushed an effluence of miasmal gases so nauseous that we started back in horror. After an interval, however, we approached the pit again and found the exaltations less unbearable. Our lanterns disclosed the top of a flight of stone steps, dripping with some detestable ichor of the inner earth, and bordered by moist walls encrusted with nitra. And now, for the first time, my memory records verbal discourse. Warren, addressing me at length in his mellow tenor voice, a voice singularly unperturbed by our awesome surroundings, "I'm sorry to have to ask you to stay on the surface," he said, "but it would be a crime to let anyone with your frail nerves go down there. You can't imagine, even from what you have read and from what I've told you, the things I shall have to see and do. It's fiendish work, Carter, and I doubt if any man without ironclad sensibilities could ever see it through and come up alive and sane. I don't wish to offend you, and heaven knows I'd be glad enough to have you with me, but the responsibility is in a certain sense mine. And I couldn't drag a bundle of nerves like you down to probable death or madness. I tell you, you can't imagine what the thing is really like, but I promise to keep you informed over the telephone of every move. You see, I have enough wire here to reach the center of the earth and back. I can still hear in memory those coolly spoken words, and I can still remember my remonstrances. I seemed desperately anxious to accompany my friend into those sepulchral depths, yet he proved inflexibly obdurate. At one time, he threatened to abandon the expedition if I remained insistent, a threat which proved effective, since he alone held the key to the thing. All this I can still remember, though I no longer know what manner of thing we sought. After he had secured my reluctant acquiescence in his design, Warren picked up the reel of wire and adjusted the instruments. At his nod, I took one of the latter and seated myself upon an aged, discolored gravestone close by the newly uncovered aperture. Then he shook my hand, shouldered the coil of wire, and disappeared within that indescribable ossuary. For a moment, I kept sight of the glow of his lantern and heard the rustle of the wire as he laid it down after him, but the glow soon disappeared abruptly as if a turn in the stone staircase had been encountered, and the sound died away almost as quickly. I was alone, yet bound to the unknown depths by those magic strands whose insulated surface lay green beneath the struggling beams of that waning crescent. In the lone silence of that hoary and deserted city of the dead, my mind conceived the most ghastly fantasies and illusions. And the grotesque shrines and monoliths seemed to assume a hideous personality, half sentience. Amorphous shadows seemed to lurk in the darker recesses of the weed-choked hollow, and to flit as in some blasphemous ceremonial procession past the portals of the moldering tombs in the hillside, shadows which could not have been cast by the pallid, peering crescent moon. I constantly consulted my watch by the light of my electric lantern, and listened with feverish anxiety as the receiver of the telephone, but for more than a quarter of an hour heard nothing. Then, a faint clicking came from the instrument, and I called down to my friend in a tense voice. Apprehensive as I was nevertheless unprepared for the words which came up from that uncanny vault in accents more alarmed and quivering than any I had heard before from Harley Warren, who had so calmly left me a little while previously, now called from below in a shaky whisper, more portentous than the loudest shriek.
God, if you could see what I am seeing.
I could not answer. Speechless, I could only wait. Then came the frenzied tones again.
Carter, it's terrible, monstrous, unbelievable.
This time, my voice did not fail me, and I poured into the transmitter a flood of excited questions. Terrified, I continued to repeat, "Warren, what is it? What is it?" Once more came the voice of my friend, still hoarse with fear, and now apparently tinged with despair.
I can't tell you, Carter. It's too utterly beyond thought. I dare not tell you. No man could know it and live. Great God, I never dreamed of this.
Stillness again, save now for my incoherent torrent of shuddering inquiry. Then the voice of Warren, in a pitch of wilder consternation.
Carter, for the love of God, put that slab back and get out of this if you can. Quick, leave everything else and make for the outside. It's your only chance. Do as I say and don't ask me to explain.
I heard, yet was able only to repeat my frantic questions. Around me were the tombs and the darkness and the shadows. Below me, some peril beyond the radius of the human imagination. But my friend was in greater danger than I, and through my fear, I felt a vague resentment that he should deem me capable of deserting him under such circumstances. More clicking, and after a pause, A piteous cry from Warren.
Beat it, for God's sake! Put the slab and beat it, Carter!
Something in the boyish slang of my evidently stricken companion unleashed my faculties. I formed a shouted resolution. Warren, brace up, I'm coming down. But at this offer, the tone of my auditor changed to a scream of utter despair.
Don't! You can't understand! It's too late and it's my own fault! Put back the slab and run! There's nothing else you or anyone can do now!
The tone changed again, this time acquiring a softer quality, as of hopeless resignation, yet remained tense, through its anxiety for me.
Quick, before it's too late!
I tried not to heed him, tried to break through the paralysis which held me, and fulfill my vow to rush down to his aid, but the next whisper found me still held inert in the chains of stark
horror. Carter, hurry! It's no use. You must go. Better one than two. The slab!
A pause, more clicking, then the faint voice of Warren.
Nearly over now. Don't make it harder. Cover up those damned steps and run for your life. You're losing time. So long, Carter. Won't see you again.
Here Warren's whisper swelled into a cry that gradually rose to a shriek fraught with all the horror of the ages.
Curse these hellish things. Legions, my God, beat it! Beat it! Beat it!
After that was silence. I know not how many interminable eons I was sat stupefied, whispering, muttering, calling, screaming into the telephone over and over again. Through those eons I whispered and muttered and called and shouted and screamed, Warren, Warren, answer me, are you there? And then there came to me the crowning horror of all, the unbelievable, unthinkable, almost unmentionable thing. I have said that eons seemed to elapse after Warren shrieked forth his last desperate warning, and that only my own cries now broke the hideous silence. But after a while, there was a further clicking in the receiver, and I strained my ears to listen. Again I called down, Warren, are you there? And in answer heard the thing which has brought this cloud over my mind. I do not try, gentlemen, to account for that thing, that voice, nor can I venture to describe it in detail, since the first words took away my consciousness and created a mental blank which reaches to the time of my awakening in the hospital. Shall I say that the voice was deep, hollow, gelatinous, remote, unearthly, inhuman, disembodied? What shall I say? It was the end of my experience and is the end of my story. I heard it and knew no more. Heard it as I sat petrified in that unknown cemetery in the hollow, amidst the crumbling stones, the falling tombs, the rank vegetation and the miasmal vapors. Heard it welled up from the innermost depths of that damnable open sepulchre as I watched amorphous, necrophagous shadows dance beneath an accursed waning mood. And this is what it said.
You fool, Warren is dead.
The Statement of Randolph Carter by H.P. Lovecraft. I like that story. That ranks up there amongst my favorite H.P. Lovecraft short stories. What did y'all think of that one? I see that the chat is just full of Michael Jackson beat it jokes. I hope you got more out of the story than that. Yeah, all right. I see there's nothing to see in chat here other than a lot of Michael Jackson and moist comments. Carter, it's moist down here. No, stop it. Don't ruin the mood. It's creepy, scary stories. Unless you moisten your... Okay, so it's just moist and Michael Jackson. I'm surprised there's no moist Michael Jackson jokes. Disappeared into the moist. Damn it, people. Shame on all of you. Have you ever heard of the koala hole? The cola hole. I know, and I'm not even going to... Because you put a laughing face at the end of it, I'm not going to figure out what that is. Whew. Yes, that is a creepy story. I like that. And I enjoyed it immensely as well. Good one, says Rare in the history. Oh, look, there's some intelligent comments. Oh, God damn it. Extremely happy simmer. You are banished. You are banished to the penalty box. 5 minutes for instigating with your comment. We also got moist out of the story. Warren Zevon is dead. Warren Zevon died like a millennia ago. Warren Zevon died a long, long time ago. And it's sad because he was great friends with David Letterman and appeared on Letterman's show just countless times. And he released an album. He knew he was going to die because he had, I believe it was lung cancer. Something he knew he was checking out. And so he wrote a last album that's just filled with songs about getting ready to die. Warren Zevon's last album was called My Ride's Here. How's that for a title from a guy who's knows he's dying? Yeah, Warren Zevon's last album is called My Ride's Here. And he did his last television appearance on David Letterman's show. And crusty old Dave Letterman broke down in tears because he knew it was probably the last time he was going to see his friend alive. Extremely happy simmer. I only tell the truth. Well, thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for your $10 super chat. £10 super chat. Sorry, didn't mean to say $10. £10 super chat. I won't defend Keanu Reeves, but I will say the opening of Bram Stoker's Dracula with the music and the bleeding cross is amazing, and the full creature in American Werewolf in London doesn't hold up. They're generations apart. You know, I mean, in technology-wise. Like I said, those are the reasons why I had to go with American Werewolf in London. The practical effects were amazing. There's nostalgia. There's Warren Zevon, and it was intended semi-camp. So they're both great. They're both great movies. And I've watched Bram Stoker's Dracula more times than I've watched American Werewolf in London. I have a story. He says, "Thanks for the reading, Jeff." I said I subscribed to your channel. I just caught a few seconds while I was talking, listening. I like your. This is all live, so you know my intercourse ups are there, the deal. But everybody should go check out. I have a story. I kind of like. I want to look. I'm looking forward to listening to some of those stories. What happened? What have I done? Why do I need to edit the chat? What happened? What have I missed? Why is there no chat in any replays no more? There should be. There's chat in all of them, I think. Isn't there? Did YouTube muck with some... I haven't edited anything. Did somebody muck with something? When did this start? Huh. What happens is... right after you finish a stream, it takes anywhere from 2 to 6 or even 8 hours for the chat to be reprocessed and reposted. There shouldn't be a problem with chat. Let's take a little break here and find out, shall we? Let me just kind of go back and check out yesterday's. I guess that would be a good thing to do. Because if it's not there, then I have to go dig through the settings to see what they've done. Content, live, yesterday, view on YouTube. Chat replays there. It's you, Alan. It's you. If you edit chat, if you edit the video in any way, it deletes the chat forever and ever and ever. But I don't edit anything. So the chats are still there. It takes several hours after the stream ends for the chat to make its way to the replay. So maybe we're just watching it too soon. Ooh, I like when I come in the end of conversations. Doctor of Dragon Studies is Danielle. The second one is my favorite, actually. Now I have to scroll up and see what Danielle's chat is there. Vampire Hunter D. Okay. Okay. Are we ready for the next Lovecraft story? Let me make. Okay, we're all caught up on Picture in the House. Yes. See, I wrestled with reading Picture in the House or not. Like I said, if everybody likes this, and if there's enough people that say they want to see stuff like this again, I would be happy to do another reading on Halloween. It's all up to sort of what sort of traction this gets. We've got 200 people here now. It'd be great if we had 2,000 people here, but hey, I can't have everything I want. But if this is kind of something that works, we might be able to do it every now and then. But this is the first time I've done this, and I know everybody here wants me to do it, but it's got to be worth your time. It's got to be worth your effort, and we'll just see. We'll see how this goes. I enjoy it. It's kind of having fun. Right. Let's see what's next. Okay. The next story is story number 6. Haven't seen. Has anyone seen Chandler Remington in the chat, or is she here? Is she asleep? Where, Chandler, are you here? I haven't seen you, because I said that I chose this story specifically for Chandler and Flux, but it's not only for them, of course. I chose it specifically because of Flux and Chandler. But I haven't noticed Chandler in chat yet, so she must have fallen back asleep or something. I don't know. No one has seen Chandler. Caw caw. All right. Let me just see. Send one quick. Are you awake? Reading your story now. Oh, well. We'll see. Right. Well, Flux is here. Yes, I think she's sleeping the sleep of the just. Well, you're here, Flux. This is a story that I chose because of, not exclusively for, Chandler Remington and Flux, because I know they're cat owners. This is a story about cats. So hopefully Flux and Chandler and other cat owners will enjoy the story. This is The Cats of Ulthar by H.P. Lovecraft. It is said that in Ulthar, which lies beyond the river Sky, no man may kill a cat. And this I can verily believe as I gaze upon him who sitteth purring before the fire. For a cat is cryptic and close to strange things which men cannot see. He is the soul of antique Egyptus and bearer of tales from forgotten cities of Meroe and Ophir. He is kin to the jungle lords and heir to the secrets of hoary and sinister Africa. The Sphinx is his cousin, and he speaks her language, but he is more ancient than the Sphinx and remembers that which she hath forgotten. In Ulthar, before ever the Burgess forbade the killing of cats, there dwelt an old cotter and his wife who delighted to trap and slay the cats of their neighbors. Why they did this I know not, save that many hate the voice of the cat in the night and take it ill that cats should run stealthily about yards and gardens at twilight. But whatever the reason, this old man and woman took pleasure in trapping and slaying every cat which came near to their hovel, and from some of the sounds heard after dark, many villagers fancied that the manner of slaying was exceedingly peculiar. But the villagers did not discuss such things with the old man and his wife because of the habitual expressions on the withered faces of the two, and because their cottage was so small and so darkly hidden under the spreading oaks at the back of the neglected yard. Well, in truth, much as the owners of the cats hated these odd folk, they feared them more. And instead of berating them as brutal assassins, merely took care that no cherished pet or mouser should stray towards the remote hovel under the dark trees. When through some unavoidable oversight a cat was missed and sounds heard after dark, the loser would lament impotently or console himself by thanking fate that it was not one of his children who had vanished thusly. For the people of Ulthar were simple and knew not whence at all the cats first came. One day a caravan of strange wanderers from the south entered the narrow cobbled streets of Ulthar. Dark wanderers they were, and unlike the other roving folk who passed through the village twice every year, in the marketplace they told fortunes for silver and bought gay beads from the merchants. What was the land of these wanderers none could tell, but it was seen that they were given to strange prayers, and that they had painted on the sides of their wagons strange figures with human bodies and the heads of cats, hawks, rams, and lions. And the leader of the caravan wore a headdress with 2 horns and a curious disc betwixt the horns. There was in this singular caravan a little boy with no father or mother, but only a tiny black kitten to cherish. The plague had not been kind to him, yet had left him this small furry thing to mitigate his sorrow. And when one is very young, one can find great relief in the lively antics of a black kitten. So the boy, whom the dark people called Menes, smiled more often than he wept as he sat playing with his graceful kitten on the steps of the oddly painted wagon. On the 3rd morning of the wanderer's stay in Ulthar, Menes could not find his kitten. And as he sobbed aloud in the marketplace, certain villagers told him of the old man and his wife, and of sounds heard in the night. And when he heard these things, his sobbing gave place to meditation, and finally to prayer. He stretched out his arms toward the sun and prayed in a tongue no villager could understand, though indeed the villagers did not try very hard to understand, since their attention was mostly taken up by the sky and the odd shapes the clouds were assuming. It was very peculiar, but as the little boy uttered his petition, there seemed to form overhead the shadowy, nebulous figures of exotic things, of hybrid creatures crowned with horn-flaked discs. Nature is full of such illusions to impress the imaginative. That night, the wanderers left Ulthar and were never seen again. And the householders were troubled when they noticed that in all the village there was not a cat to be found. From each hearth the familiar cat had vanished. Cats large and small, black, gray, striped, yellow, and white. Old Crannon, the burgomaster, swore that the dark folk had taken the cats away in revenge for the killing of Menes' kitten, and they cursed the caravan and the little boy. But Nith, the lean notary, declared that the old cotter and his wife were more likely persons to suspect, for their hatred of cats was notorious and increasingly bold. Still, no one durst complain to the sinister couple, even when little Atal, the innkeeper's son, vowed that he had at twilight seen all the cats of Ulthar in that accursed yard under the trees, pacing very slowly and solemnly in a circle around the cottage, 2 abreast, as if in performance of some unheard of rite of beasts. The villagers did not know how much to believe from so small a boy, and though they feared that the evil pair had charmed the cats to their death, they preferred not to chide the old cotter till they met him outside his dark and repellent yard. So Ulthar went to sleep in vain anger, and when the people awakened at dawn, behold, every cat was back at his accustomed hearth, large and small, black, gray, striped, yellow, and white. None were missing. Very sleek and fat did the cats appear, and sonorous with purring content. The citizens talked with one another of the affair and marveled not a little. Old Crannan again insisted that it was the dark folk who had taken them, since cats did not return alive from the cottage of the ancient man and his wife, but all agreed on one thing: that the refusal of all the cats to eat their portions of meat or drink their saucers of milk was exceedingly curious. And for 2 whole days, the sleek, lazy cats of Ulthar would touch no food, but only dozed by the fire or in the sun. It was fully a week before the villagers noticed that no lights were appearing at dusk in the windows of the old cottage under the trees. Then the lean Nith remarked that no one had seen the old man or his wife since the night the cats were away. In another week, the burgomaster decided to overcome his fears and call at the strangely silent dwelling as a matter of duty. Though in so doing, he was careful to take with him Shang, the blacksmith, and Thule, the cutter of stone, as a witness. And when they broke down the door, and when they had broken down the frail door, they found only this: 2 cleanly picked human skeletons on the earthen floor, and a number of singular beetles crawling in the shadowy corners. There was subsequently much talk among the burgesses of Ulthar. Zath, the coroner, disputed at length with Nith, the lean notary, and Crannan and Shang and Thule were overwhelmed with questions. Even little Atal, the innkeeper's son, was closely questioned and given a sweetmeat as a reward. They talked of the old cutter and his wife, of the caravan of dark wanderers, of small Menez and his black kitten, of the prayer of Menez, and of the sky during that prayer, of the doings of the cats on the night the caravan left, and of what was later found in the cottage under the dark trees in the repellent yard. And in the end, the burgesses passed that remarkable law, which is told of by traders in Hatheg and discussed by the travelers in Nir, that in Ulthar no man may kill a cat. The Cats of Ulthar by H.P. Lovecraft. There you go. That was the story that I was inspired to read by Flux and Chandler, because they have cats. Yes, Flux, they ate the old people. The cats all ganged up and made a delicious meal of the old people that kept them all fed and lazy for 2 whole days. Good kitties. Cat justice. I have a cat too. Good on him. Ann S., don't fuck with cats. Right. The Cats of Ulthar. I actually have a friend who's a filmmaker. She made a short film loosely based on the Cats of Ulthar. She's a cat lover too. It's somewhere on YouTube. If you just search for the Cats of Ulthar, I'm sure her short story will come up. Of course, Flux started everything with lol, yay, pussy stories. Flux, what am I going to do with you? Right. Oh, no, amateur iconoclast, no. Garrett Pace, cats suck. Bad feral cat problem here. Well, only the feral cats suck, I guess. And people suck for making feral cats. Oh, goodbye to my 5-6-year-old whiskey. My Octomore Edition 7.2. Irreplaceable and loved. Goodbye. Goodbye, sweet whiskey. Extremely happy simmer. The most unrealistic part of that story is the idea that cats wouldn't want more food even after eating people. Fair enough. That's irreplaceable. Why? Because every batch is different. That was edition 7.2. That was about 5 years ago. They're on edition 13 now. They no longer make it. It was just made for that one little round, that one little year. It's gone forever. And cheers to sharing it with all of you. Yes, it was loved and used. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate that. Mexican Vader, I'm allergic to fur-laden pussies, and those who have them seem to be allergic to me. Lol. Well, see, now this is my thing. This is actually a question I have. Because most of like the cat allergies and dog allergies are not from the actual physical animal itself. It's from the fur, from the dander and things. Now, they have Egyptian hairless cats. And if I were to get a cat again, I would get an Egyptian hairless cat. I'm wondering if people who are allergic to cats are allergic to the hairless cats. That's just a question I have. I think a lot about these things. Yes, we're talking about actual cats. It's the saliva and urine. Okay. All right. Hairless cats still make dander. I had a friend in law school. She had a hairless Italian greyhound that she had to like put lotion on every day and sunscreen, and she named her dog Rogaine. No, the hairless are kind of hype. Oh, see, we've got all different answers. I want like someone to say, I'm horribly allergic to cats, and I'm not allergic to hairless. That's what I'd like to see. The naked inside out looking kitties. Yes, the one that looks like they've been prolapsed. The prolapsed cats. You can't believe I just said that wasn't on my bingo card to say the phrase prolapsed cat today, was it? Huh. Okay, how do I recover from that one? It's Danielle's fault. All right. I have 3 more stories scheduled here. How are we doing on time? Oh God, we should end the stream now, but what do you think? Do you want an extra hour? Oh, poor Chandler. I'm sorry, Chandler. I'm reading this chat. Chandler just sent me a text, said, I just tuned in to hear prolapsed cat. I'm sorry, Chandler. Good morning, I guess. All right. I think we can get through 3 more stories in another hour. Oh, Chandler. Go back and listen to the cat story. I swear to God, it has nothing to do with prolapsed cats. And I'm never gonna say that phrase again as long as I live. Yes, that was the end of the special story, Chandler. Did I miss the special story? Yes, this is our after discussion. So you got to go back a few minutes. You just barely, like however many minutes ago, when did I send you that? 12:03. Wait, what? So go back 15 minutes from now. That's when. So at the what would be the 150 mark is probably a good place to start. Yes, the 150 mark I think is right about where the Cats of Ulthar should start. Doctor of Dragon Studies says, thanks, Jeff. Boy, we're getting closer to DoggoCam. We're about $30 from DoggoCam. We have spooky DoggoCam. I wonder if DoggoCam works in dim light. Yeah, we're about ready to unleash that achievement, and we'll see how that goes. Daily Quick Bites crap. Got to go do a chore. If not back before the end of the show, see you. And go back. Make sure you can go back and check it out again. Right. Well, let's see here. Get our next story ready. Scramble. What the hell? All right. Wait, what? There we go. All right. We currently have 191. We've lost people. People, how could you leave this? This is awesome. Why are you leaving? Shame on all of you. But we do have 267 likes, so that's pretty darn good. If any of you hadn't hit the like button yet, please go down and do that. And subscribe if you haven't. This is not what we do normally. Normally we talk about law and legal things and societal things and current events. But we're doing a special reading today. Sometimes we might do, like I said, if this goes over well, we might do some more. And then take our poll if you're just joining us. We've got 46 new members today. That is awesome. Thank you so much for the support, guys. But now it's time to get back to more spooky stories. What's the next story? The next story. All right, let me see. Take a drink of whiskey. That is so good. It's going to make me sad to see that go away. Such a good whiskey. Take a little puff on the pipe. Keep go away, fog. Keep the voice a little bit on the edge, a little bit on the rough side, a little bit on the lower register. No, we're not talking about that again, Spatha. Legal Vices says, I have a story. Been around a while, so I guess it's the King's Guard hats that are made of hippie clippings now. Wow. I have no idea how to even begin to unpack that. Oh, yeah. Duh. Holy God. Sean Lasich asks, what are you smoking today? Durr. I forgot to mention that, didn't I? Well, we have our Cthulhu pipe here. We showed that. This was the custom pipe that I designed and had carved specifically for me by a master pipe carver. But the tobacco we're smoking in this is C&D Dreams of Kadath. C&D, Cornell and Dale, they're one of the main tobacco producers. They have a series of 6, I think now they've expanded to 7 tobaccos that are based on H.P. Lovecraft works. This Dreams of Kadath is based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. It's a very Middle Eastern flavoring. We got lots of Turkish tobacco and things like that in there. So it's got that. I don't really know how to describe it other than Mid-Easternly feel. It's good. Sometimes it's hard to get, but yeah, it's part of. I was telling you earlier about the dream cycle, the cycle of dreams that he wrote about. That was one of the main dream stories. It was called the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, and so this tobacco is based on that Lovecraftian text. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Yes, so it's we're smoking Lovecraft tobacco in a Lovecraft pipe. So yeah, I'm a Lovecraft nerd. I don't know what else to say. You know. All right, let me lock and load us here again. Get us ready for our next story. Spath says, do you ever do your own tobacco blending, buying different ones and blending them yourself? Never. I trust other people to do that. But well, okay, I'm a huge mint head, and I have this amazing, like, super minty tobacco that I just love to smoke just itself. But occasionally, if I want something with like a hint of mint, I'll mix it with a little bit of the mint. But it's totally not a thing for me. I don't do just like I just put it in there if I want a little bit of mint blast. So there you go. It's very spicy, dark, and heavy tobacco. This Dreams of Kadath. All right. Well, as I was saying, let's get on with our story. We just did the Cats of Ulthar. Now, one of my favorite stories. a great story. It's inspired movies. It's inspired nightmares and dreams. It is a classic. It's one we've mentioned here in chat a lot. All right, let me get ready here. I think we're ready for the next story. This one I think needs some spooky sounds behind it. Menthol, no. Mint, yes. Right. Spooky sounds for Halloween. This story. This story, the next story in our series, is Dagon. I'm writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more. Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear to torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I'm a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize. Whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due to us as naval prisoners, so liberal indeed was the discipline of our captors that after 5 days, I managed to escape alone on a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time. When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or small coastline was in sight. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous. When at last I awakened, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected of a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished, for there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and other less describable things, which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime, and yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet. As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lay hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean. Strain my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished ocean and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of fish was maddening, but I was just too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert. That night I encamped, and on the following day still traveled towards the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. But the fourth evening I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it appeared from a distance, an intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in the cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me, but I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian depths where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me, an object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist or the archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I had ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously representative marine things which were unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound. Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of Adore. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shewn disporting like fishes in the water or some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer, they were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet. Shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other creatures less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shewn in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendants had perished eras before the first ancestors of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing, whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Vast, Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal, and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard peals of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of an American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of the land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god. But soon, perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries. It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all. Having written a full account for the information of the contemptuous amusement of my fellow man, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-o-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down in their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind, of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean floor shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window! Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. I love that story. I love the story of Dagon. Okay, so I throw it out to you now. What do y'all think of that story? Bush McFadden said, "This is more poetic than abject horror. Good stuff." Yeah, we don't write like this anymore. We don't talk like this anymore. Ooh, I liked Manowar in the 80s. Yeah, Manowar, underrated band. Oh, yeah, someone just mentioned Manowar is an underrated band. Band. Lovecraft taught me one of my favorite words, antediluvian. Oh, yes, before the floods. Lux says that story sounds fishy. Spooky, says Huge Ass. The rhythm of the language is awesome. Oh, yeah, God, there were wordsmiths back then. There were people that knew how to use language. They use words that we just don't use anymore. It's very, very expressive. That's why I like reading Poe and Lovecraft. The words themselves create the pictures. Modern writing. And then Cthulhu was like, YOLO. Oh, no. We don't, Jeff? I mean, WAP is just as poetic. Oh, no. Dagon was an actually Mesopotamian deity. I prefer the stories without a scaly octopus monster, king in yellow, etc. Well, we kind of have one of each coming up next, our last two stories. We do have two things that are starred. Oh, did we do this one already? I think we did this one. We did this one already. We'll do it again. Doctor of Dragon Studies. $10. Thanks, Jeff. When the moon hits your eye like a big whale pie, that's a morphine. Right. Thank you so much, Leafy. Ruining the mood. Horror stories, King James Version. I like that. Poe, Dickens can be tongue twisters for sure. Oh wow! Let's see where we. Oh, we're still about $30 away from unlocking Doggo Cam achievements. We may not get to Doggo Cam tonight. We got to Doggo Cam yesterday for the first time in a while. Kaiser Pineapple. This Dagon is one of my all-time favorites. It ranks up there, seriously, in the top few, and very near, if not at the top of my short stories. Again, I my favorite all around H.P. Lovecraft story is Shadow over Innsmouth. The Cthulhu arc is great in and of itself, but like just a one in, one out, punchy story, Shadow over Innsmouth. Right. Okay. Well, there's two more stories I want to get through. We might even have to go a little over the 3-hour mark. Let's see. Doctor of Dragon Studies. So close to Dagon Studies. Just one letter off. Oh my God. What? Catherine says, want to hear something scary? I woke up to 8.5 inches of snow. Where the hell are you? The Arctic Circle? Catherine, where is it snowing 8.5 inches? Innsmouth has side stories too, though. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, a lot of his stories are all intertwined. I mean, Innsmouth is very, very intricately interwoven with Dagon. That was the whole thing that people in the village, they worship Dagon. A lot of like the vast majority of Lovecraft's works kind of intertwine with each other. Danielle, in good news, I'm eating a donut. Oh, damn, that sounds really good. Wish I was eating a donut. North Dakota? It snowed 8.5 inches in North Dakota? Good God. That's less than ideal. Yikes. Huh. Alrighty. Well. Deep breath, everyone. Take another shot of another sip of the last of the Octomore 7.2. I can maybe squeeze 2 more swallows out of here. Oh, I with 10 poons. Thank you. What's your favorite story? What's your favorite Lovecraft-inspired show/movie? True Detective Season 1 for me is really good at capturing the spirit and atmosphere, all without ever showing a monster. I like the Lovecraft Country series that only lasted 1 season, unfortunately. I like that. That was kind of cool. Huh. Color Out of Space, the 2019 one with Nicolas Cage was really good. I like Dagon. He said Dagon is a very divisive movie. I loved the movie Dagon. I loved the movie. It was great. And there was a Call of Cthulhu that was done in 2005. They did it black and white, kind of silent movie style, as if it had been made while H.P. Lovecraft was alive. They used the cinematic techniques and staging and things of the late 20s, early 30s. So that Call of Cthulhu that was made in 2005 was just great for being a throwback to the movies of the 20s and the 30s. I mean, the movie Reanimator in and of itself is just a great fun movie. The Reanimator series, all three of them. But I didn't like it as a Lovecraft inspired thing because it just didn't follow the book at all. But it's great in and of itself, but I wouldn't put that on the list. I'd say Color Out of Space for modernity, the 2005 Call of Cthulhu for its nostalgia, and just Dagon for being a great mashup of Dagon and Shadow over Innsmouth. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Oh, wow. Well, what have we got here? What have we got here? Joseph telling us to
release the hounds.
All right, let's see if we can release the hounds here. I wasn't actually expecting to get there. Extra camera. Oh, yes, we can. Please don't disconnect. Please don't disconnect. Oh, looks pretty good in the dark. Where are we going to put Doggo Cam? That won't work. Oh, that's this painting right here. That's a better view of this painting I have here by Francois Berenger. He's got books on Amazon, The Call of Cthulhu and the Dunwich Horror, where he does all of the artwork for the books. They're huge. They're kind of expensive, but they're gorgeous coffee table books. Francois Berenger is his name. I love his books. He's got they're in like French, English, Russian, and a couple of other languages. So you want to check those out on Amazon. This is the artwork from the book, and these are all limited series prints that I've gotten because I just love them to death. Joseph has released the hounds. Where's the hounds? Should we do? All right, I got a hound. Where's the hound? Oh, I guess I had to add them to the stage. All right, we can do this. I have to decide which view is better. That one. I think vertical view is better. Well, that's certainly not it, is it? That's kind of scary. We don't want to. Nobody wants to see that view. Or do you? It's too dark and grainy. I have no idea what view to use for Doggo Cam. This one? Yeah, we can do that. All right, we'll do this one. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good view. Well, yes, exactly. Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean was based on Cthulhu. So there you go. That's the character. There you go. That's why it looks like that. All right, everybody. Shall we move on to the second to last story? Check something here. This is funny. All right. I knew it. There actually is. There is merch out there available for, because like every time there's an election cycle, everyone is always Cthulhu 2020, Cthulhu 2024, No Lives Matter. There already is Cthulhu 2024 merch out there. The Greater of Two Evils. I'm thinking I'm gonna get that shirt. Cthulhu 2024, the Greater of Two Evils. I'm gonna get that shirt. That's all right. That's sold me. That's what I was checking on. Oh, it's time to clean your ears again, it looks like, huh, Dargy? Dargy, say hi to the people. Hi. Say howdy. Say hi to the fans. They care more about you than me. Okay. Doggo Cam needs a filter. Lol. It's out on the veranda there. So, all right, here we go. the next story. Let me get us all set up here. The second to last story we're going to be reading is called The Other Gods. And we'll wrap it up with the one that I know somebody was waiting for. The last story will be From Beyond. All right, here we go with the second to last story. Let me lubricate them vocal cords. I need some lube on my vocal cords. ASMR bottle cap replacement. Kaiser waiting for the last story of the day. Yee, I am excited. The Lost Goshes. Oh, no, these are two fairly long stories. We've probably got another easily 30 to 45 minutes left. So here we go. Don't panic. All right, got all the monthly chats. Super. All right, we're ready to go. Do we? All right, real quick. This is a story about other gods. Do we need spooky background music 1? No spooky background music 2. Go ahead. I'll give you 10 seconds to vote. Spooky background music 1. No spooky background music 2. And go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Ones have it, it looks like. Unless there's a rash of twos that come streaming in. Because we're on a little bit of a delay here, so it takes a while for all of you guys to roll up. Looks like spooky music wins. All right. The Other Gods by H.P. Lovecraft. Atop the tallest of Earth's peaks dwells the gods of Earth, and suffer no man to tell that he hath looked upon them. Lesser peaks they once inhabited, but ever the men from the plains would scale the slopes of rock and snow, driving the gods to higher and higher mountains, till now only the last remains. When they left their older peaks, they took with them all signs of themselves, save once, it is said, when they left a carven image on the face of the mountain, which they call Nargnek. But now they have betaken themselves to unknown Kadath. At the end, hey, there we go, Kadath, the tobacco I'm smoking tonight. But now they have betaken themselves to unknown Kadath, in the cold waste where no man treads. And they are grown stern, having no higher peak whereto to flee at the coming of men. They are grown stern, and where once they suffered men to displace them, they now forbid men to come, or coming to depart. It is well for men that they know not of Kadath in the cold waste, else they would seek injudiciously to scale it. Sometimes, when Earth's gods are homesick, they visit in the still night the peaks where once they dwelt, and weep softly as they try to play in the olden way on remembered slopes. Men have felt the tears of the gods on white-capped Thurai, though they had thought it rain, and have heard the sighs of the gods in the plaintive drawn winds of Lyrion. In cloud ships the gods are wont to travel, and wise cotters have legends that keep them from certain high peaks at night when it is cloudy. For the gods are not lenient as of old. In Ulthar, which lies beyond the river sky, once dwelt an old man avid to behold the gods of earth, a man deeply learned in the 7 cryptical books of San, and familiar with the panoptic manuscripts of distant and frozen Lomar. His name was Barzai the Wise, and the villagers tell of how he went up a mountain on a night of the strange eclipse. Barzai knew so much of the gods that he could tell of their comings and goings, and guessed so many of their secrets that he was deemed half a god himself. It was he who wisely advised the Burgess of Ulthar when they passed their remarkable law against the slaying of cats, and who first told the young priest Atal where it is that black cats go at midnight on St. John's Eve. Barzai was learned in the lore of Earth's gods and gained a desire to look upon their faces. He believed that his great secret knowledge of gods could shield him from their wrath, so resolved to go up to the summit of the high and rocky Hatheg Kla on a night when he knew the gods would be there. Hatheg Kla is far from the stony desert beyond Hatheg, for which it is named, and rises like a rock statue in a silent temple. Around its peaks the mists play mournfully, for mists are the memories of the gods, and the gods of Hatheg Kla, when they dwelt upon it in the old days. Often the gods of earth visit Hatheg Kla in their ships of cloud, casting pale vapors over the slopes as they dance reminiscently on the summit under a clear moon. The villagers of Hatheg say it's ill to climb Hatheg Kla at any time, and deadly to climb it by night when pale vapors hide the summit and the moon. But Barzai heeded them not when he came from neighboring Ulthar with the youngest priest Atal, who was his disciple. Atal was the only son of an innkeeper, and was sometimes afraid, but Barzai's father had been a landgrave who dwelt in an ancient castle, so he had no common superstition in his blood, and only laughed at the fearful cotters. Barzai and Atal went out of Hatheg into the stony desert despite the prayers of peasants, and talked of Earth's gods by their campfires at night. Many days they traveled, and from afar saw lofty Hatheg Kla, with its areola of mournful mist. On the 13th day, they reached the mountain's lonely base, and Atal spoke his fears. But Barzai was old and learned, and had no fears, so led the way boldly up the slope that no man had scaled since the time of Sansu, who is written of with fright in the moldy Penkadic manuscripts. The way was rocky and made perilous by chasms, cliffs, and falling stones. Later it grew cold and snowy, and Barzai and Atal often slipped and fell as they hewed and plodded upwards with staves and axes. Finally, the air grew thin, and the sky changed color, and the climbers found it hard to breathe, but still they toiled up and up, marveling at the strangeness of the scene, and thrilling at the thought of what would happen on the summit when the moon was out and the pale vapors spread around. For 3 days they climbed higher, higher, and higher toward the roof of the world. Then they camped to wait for the clouding of the moon. For 4 nights, no clouds came, and the moon shone down cold through the thin, mournful mists around the silent pinnacle. Then, on the 5th night, which was the night of the full moon, Barzai saw some dense clouds far to the north, and stayed up with Atal to watch them draw near. Thick and majestic they sailed, slowly and deliberately onward, ranging themselves round the peak high above the watchers, and hiding the moon and the summit from view. For a long hour the watchers gazed, while the vapors swirled and the screen of clouds grew thicker and more restless. Barzai was wise in the lore of Earth's gods, and listened hard for certain sounds, but Atal felt the chill of the vapors and the awe of the night, and feared much. When Barzai began to climb higher and beckon eagerly, it was long before Atal would follow. So thick were the vapors that the way was hard, and though Atal followed on at last, he could scarce see the gray shape of Barzai on the dim slope above in the clouded moonlight. Barzai forged very far ahead, and seemed, despite his age, to climb more easily than Atal, fearing not the steepness that began to grow too great for any save a strong and dauntless man, nor pausing at wide black chasms that Atal could scarcely leap. And so they went wildly up over rocks and gulfs, slipping and stumbling, and sometimes awed at the vastness and horrible silence of bleak ice pinnacles and mute granite steeps. Very suddenly, Barzai went out of Atal's sight, scaling a hideous cliff that seemed to bulge outward and block the path of any climber not inspired by Earth's gods. Atal was far below and planning what he should do when he reached the place, when curiously he noticed that the light had grown strong, as if the cloudless peak and moonless meeting place of the gods were very near. And as he scrambled on towards the bulging cliff and lit sky, he felt fears more shocking than any he had known before. Then, through the high mists, he heard the voice of unseen Barzai shouting wildly in delight, "I have heard the gods! I have heard Earth's gods singing in revelry on Hagath Claw! On Hatheg Claw, the voices of gods, Earth's gods are known to Barzai the prophet. The mists are thin and the moon is bright, and I shall see the gods dancing wildly on Hatheg Claw that they loved in their youth. The wisdom of Barzai hath made him greater than Earth's gods, and against his will their spells and barriers are not. Barzai will behold the gods, the proud gods, the secret gods, the gods of Earth who spurn the sight of man." Atal could not hear the voices Barzai heard, but he was now close to the bulging cliff and scanning it for footholds, when he heard Barzai's voice grow shriller and louder. "The mists are very thin and the moon casts shadows on the slope. The voices of Earth gods are wild and high, and they fear the coming of Barzai the Wise, who is greater than they. The moon's light flickers, and Earth's god dance against it. I shall see the dancing form of the gods that leap and howl in the moonlight. The light is dimmer, and the gods are afraid." Whilst Barzai was shouting these things, Atal felt a spectral change in the air, as if the laws of Earth were bowing to greater laws. For though the way was steeper than ever, the upward path was now grown fearsomely easy, and the bulging cliff proved scarce an obstacle when he reached it and slid perilously up its convex face. The light of the moon had strangely failed, and as Atal plunged upward through the mists, he heard Barzai the Wise shrieking in the shadows, "The moon is dark and the gods dance in the night. There is terror in the sky, for upon the moon hath sunk an eclipse foretold in no books of men or Earth's gods. There is unknown magic on Hatheg Claw, for the screams of the frightened gods have turned to laughter, and the slopes of ice shoot up endlessly into the black heavens, whither I am plunging. High, high at last in the dim light I behold the gods of Earth." And now Atal, slipping dizzily up over inconceivable steeps, heard in the dark a loathsome laughing, mixed with such a cry as no man else ever heard, save the phlegethon of unrelatable nightmares, a cry wherein reverberated the horror and anguish of a haunted lifetime, packed into one atrocious moment. The other gods, the gods of the outer hells that guard the feeble gods of Earth. Look away, go back, do not see the vengeance of the infinite abysses, that cursed, that damnable pit, merciful gods of Earth. I am falling into the sky. And as Atal shut his eyes and stopped his ears and tried to jump downward against the frightful pull from unknown heights, there resounded on Hatheg Claw that terrible peal of thunder, which awakened the good cotters of the plains and the honest burgess of Hatheg Claw, Nyr and Ulthar, and caused them to behold through the clouds that strange eclipse of the moon that no book ever predicted. And when the moon came out at last, Atal was safe on the lower snows of the mountain, without sight of Earth's gods or of the other gods. Now it is told in the moldy Necronomicon manuscripts that Sansu found naught but wordless ice and rock when he climbed Hatheg Claw in the youth of the world. Yet when the men of Ulthar and Nyr and Hatheg crushed their fears and scaled the haunted steep by day to search for Barzai the Wise, they found graven in the naked stone on the summit a curious and cyclopean symbol 50 cubits wide, as if the rock had been riven by some titanic chisel, and the symbol was like to one that learned men have discerned in those frightful parts of the Necronomicon manuscripts which are too ancient to read. This they found. Barzai the Wise they never found, nor could the holy priest Atal ever be persuaded to pray for his soul's repose. Moreover, to this day, the people of Ulthar and Nyr and Hatheg fear eclipses, and pray by night when pale vapors hide the mountaintop and the moon, and above the mists of Hatheg Claw, Earth's gods sometimes dance reminiscently, for they know they are safe, and love to come from unknown Kadath in ships of cloud, and play in the olden ways, as they did when the earth was new, and men not given to the climbing of inaccessible places. The Other Gods by H.P. Lovecraft. Whew. Yes, this probably is a good thing. Jeff isn't reading chat during this reading on this. And as I suspected, I literally suspected everyone to be talking about. See, see, I know you guys. No, I know what's going through your head while I'm reading this shit. And the air, I don't know if any of you very, very astute people paying very close attention to what I was saying noticed it, but I almost lost it when I had to read the word areola because I knew what you would be doing in chat. Just saying. Wow. You didn't disappoint me. Well, you disappointed me, but you didn't disappoint me in your disappointing of me. So I guess that's happening. Yeah. Lovecraft does have a pleasant cadence. His language is just amazing. Is it time for a language lesson, Jeff? Do you have a language lesson for us? Yes, areolas do not disappoint. Yeah. Cliff's bulge. Yeah, you know, poor Cliff. Well, lucky Cliff. I guess he's got a bulge that people have to scale. Degenerates. Straying dogs running around, no owner. It took me forever to get back. Yes, you are predictably disappointable. Well, I see there are nothing. Elephant, why? Why, Elephant, why? The second to last sip I will ever have of Octomore 7.2. Oh, Mad Amos. Gotta get the rack stash out of the way. Lovecraft Investigations from BBC Audio. It's on multiple platforms. You should all listen to them. I've never heard them. But my favorite version is available on audible.com. It's a 50-hour reading of that book that I showed, the entire fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. It runs about 50 hours, and it was done by the Lovecraft Historical Society. That's the one that I have, and this one I listen to. I have not heard the Lovecraft Investigations from BBC Audio. I will look that up, though. Awesome. Oh, super chat. Censor the word Spotify, do they? Interesting. Yes, don't want you going somewhere else for your stories, do they? Currently, we've got 181 people. Oh, we got 176. We just lost a bunch of people. 176 concurrent viewers, 307. We've got some more likes. That's great. Thank you so much, people. You're being very supportive. I appreciate this. Yes, when he said areolas, I was watching the chat like, okay, 3, 2, 1, and there it is. Is H.P. Lovecraft popular in Korea? I've never met a single Korean that's ever heard of H.P. Lovecraft. So that should probably answer the question. Oh, that was my second to last drink of that. I'm sad. It shall never be replaced. Get a little more lubrication here, and then we will begin our final story of the night. that Kaiser Pineapple has been diligently waiting for exactly 3 hours and 28 seconds. Probably more in Japan. They do like their tentacles. Yikes. No, Radagast. Down, boy. Testing. 1, 2, 3. And Kaiser Pineapple says this is where the fun begins. Well, you haven't been having fun the last 3 hours? This is probably the longest story we'll read tonight. It's kind of somewhere. It's right around the same level. I do love this story. This is a great story. Okay, I don't think we'll do spooky. I was just kind of thinking here whether we need spooky music for this one or not. Like spooky background noises. No, we don't. This is just fine the way it is. It's better quiet, I think. Let me readjust myself. My arse cheeks have gone nappy new. All right, there we go. Get the blood flow back to the nether regions. The nether regions between the worlds. The amateur iconoclast asks, at what level of super chat do we get the hockey goal horn paired with brass bonanza? Brass bonanza. I have no idea what you're talking about. But the ship's horn, or the hockey goal horn, as you call it, that's 50 and above. That's the $50 super chat and above. And if I knew what brass bonanza was, a $50 super chat, I would throw that in for free. JKD Buck said, I'd pay money to hear a Korean say Lovecraft, since there are no F's and V's. Labukulaptu. That's more Japanese, I think. It's not too far from Korean, though. You'll pay money here to hear it, huh? You don't say. Go Whalers. Still waiting to what is this? What is this brass bonanza you speak of? Oh well, yeah. But anyway, the big old foghorn. That's the $50 and $100 chats. So the other ones get the small ship's bell. All right, I guess it's time to get into the final story of the evening. Yes, Flux, I did just say my arse went nappy new. Had to get the blood flowing again. There you go. Yes, Flux, I did say that. What? I kind of came off as a creep? But I'm also a Lovecraft man, so I kind of respect you now. How did I come off as a creep? In what way did I've never come off as a creep. How did I come off as a creep? The Hartford Whales goal theme. Okay. Can't say as I've ever heard the Hartford Whalers goal theme, but all right. My favorite Lovecraft story is Whisper in Darkness. Ooh, that's a spooky one. It was just again, that was one I considered. Just a little too long. Just a little too long for these. Yeah, Larax isn't a creep. Was I a creep? Dang it. Never done anything creepy. Oh well. I can deal with it. I'm a big boy. All right. Let me get the stage set here. All Levi's, I'm also a creep. Anyway. Ellie Fant is a new member again of the Clean and Sober crew. Thank you so much. Welcome to Clean and Sober. Right. Kaiser Pineapple has been waiting for 3 hours, 5 minutes, and 55 seconds as of now. So let's get on to the final story. The final story of the evening. From Beyond by H.P. Lovecraft. Horrible beyond conception was the change which had taken place in my best friend, Crawford Tillinghast. I had not seen him since that day, 2 months and a half before, when he had told me toward what goal his physical and metaphysical researches were leading. When he had answered my odd and almost frightened remonstrances by driving me from his laboratory and his house in a burst of fanatical rage, I had known that he now remained mostly shut in the attic laboratory with that accursed electrical machine, eating little and excluding even the servants. But I had not thought that a brief period of 10 weeks could so alter and disfigure any human creature. It is not pleasant to see a stout man suddenly grown thin. And it's even worse when the baggy skin becomes yellowed or grayed, the eyes sunken, circled, and uncannily glowing, the forehead veined and corrugated, and the hands tremulous and twitching. And if added to this there be a repellent unkemptness, a wild disorder of dress, a bushiness of dark hair white at the roots, and an unchecked growth of pure white beard on a face once clean-shaven, the cumulative effect is quite shocking. But such was the aspect of Crawford Tillinghast on the night his half-coherent message brought me to his door after many weeks of exile. Such the spectre that trembled as it admitted me, candle in hand, and glanced furtively over its shoulder, as if fearful of unseen things in the ancient lonely house set back from Benevolent Street. That Crawford Tillinghast should ever have studied science and philosophy was a mistake. These things should have been left to the frigid and impersonal investigator, for they offer two equally tragic alternatives to the man feeling in action. Despair if he fail in his quest, and terror is unutterable and unimaginable if he succeeded. Tillinghast had once been the prey of failure, solitary and melancholy, but now I knew with nauseating fears of my own that he was the prey of success. I had indeed warned him 10 weeks before when he burst forth with his tale of what he felt himself about to discover. He had been flushed and excited then, talking in a high and unnatural, though always pedantic voice. "What do we know," he said, "of the world and the universe about us? Our means of receiving impressions are absurdly few, and our notions of surrounding objects infinitely narrow. We see these things only as we are constructed to see them, and can gain no idea of their absolute nature. We 5 feeble senses, we pretend to comprehend the boundlessly complex cosmos, yet other beings with a wider, stronger, or different range of senses might not only see very differently the things we see, but might see and study whole worlds of matter, energy, and life which lie close at hand, yet can never be detected with the senses we have. I have always believed that such strange, inaccessible worlds exist at our very elbows, and now I believe I have found a way to break down the barriers. I'm not joking. Within 24 hours, that machine near the table will generate waves acting on unrecognized sense organs that exist in us, atrophied and rudimentary vestiges. Those waves will open up to us many vistas unknown to man, and several unknown to anything we consider organic life. We shall see that at which dogs howl in the dark, and that at which cats prick up their ears after midnight. We shall see these things and other things which no breathing creature has yet seen. We shall overleap time, space, and dimensions, and without bodily motion peer to the bottom of creation. When Tillinghast said these things, I remonstrated, for I knew him well enough to be frightened rather than amused. But he was fanatic and drove me from the house. Now, he was no less a fanatic, but his desire to speak had conquered his resentment, and he had written me imperatively in a hand I could scarcely recognize. As I entered the abode of a friend, so suddenly metamorphosed to a shriveling gargoyle, I became infected with the terror which seemed stalking in all the shadows. The words and belief expressed 10 weeks before seemed bodied forth in the darkness beyond the small circle of candlelight, and I sickened at the hollow, altered voice of my host. I wished the servants were about, and I did not like it when he said they had all left 3 days previously. It seemed strange that old Gregory, at least, should desert his master without telling as tried a friend as I. It was he who had given me all the information I had of Tillinghast after I was repulsed in rage. Yet I soon subordinated all my fears to my growing curiosity and fascination. Just what Crawford Tillinghast now wished of me I could only guess. But that he had some stupendous secret or discovery to impart, I could not doubt. Before I had protested at his unnatural pryings into the unthinkable, now that he had evidently succeeded to some degree, I almost shared his spirit, terrible though the cost of victory appeared. Up through the dark emptiness of the house, I followed the bobbing candle in the hand of this shaking parody young man. The electricity seemed to be turned off, and when I asked my guide, he said it was for a definite reason. It would be too much. I would not dare, he continued to mutter. I especially noted his new habit of muttering, for it was not like him to talk to himself. We entered the laboratory in the attic, and I observed that detestable electrical machine glowing with a sickly, sinister, violet luminosity. It was connected with a power chemical battery, but seemed to be receiving no current, for I recalled that in its experimental stage, it had sputtered and purred when in action. In reply to my question, Tillinghast mumbled that this permanent glow was not electrical in any sense that I could understand. He now seated me near the machine, so that it was on my right, and turned a switch somewhere below the crowning cluster of glass bulbs. The usual sputtering began, turning to a whine, and terminated in a drone so soft as to suggest a return to silence. Meanwhile, the luminosity increased, waned again, then assumed a pale ochre color or blend of colors which I could neither place nor describe. Tillinghast had been watching me and noted my puzzled expression. "Do you know what this is?" he whispered. "That is ultraviolet." He chuckled oddly at my surprise. "You thought ultraviolet was invisible, and so it is, but you can see that and many other things now. Listen to me. The waves from that thing are waking 1,000 sleeping senses in us, senses which we inherit from eons of evolution, from the state of detached electrons to the state of organic humanity. I have seen truth, and I intend to show it to you. Do you wonder how it will seem? I will tell you." Here Tillinghast seated himself directly opposite me, blowing out his candle and staring hideously into my eyes. "Your existing sense organs, ears first, I think, will pick up many of the impressions, for you are closely connected with the dormant organs. Then there will be others. You have heard of the pineal gland? I laugh at the shallow endocrinologist, fellow dupe and fellow parvenu of Freudian. That gland is the great sense organ of organs. I have found out. It is like sight in the end that transmits visual pictures to the brain. If you are normal, that is in the way you ought to get most of it. I mean, get most of the evidence from beyond." I looked at the immense attic room with the sloping south wall, dimly lit by rays which the everyday eye cannot see. The far corners were all shadows, and the whole place took on a hazy unreality which obscured its nature and invited the imagination to symbolism and phantasm. During the interval that Tilligast was silent, I fancied myself to some vast and incredible temple of long dead gods, some vague edifice of innumerable black stone columns, reaching up from the floor of a damp slab to a cloudy height beyond the range of my vision. The picture was very vivid for a while, but gradually gave way to more horrible conceptions, that of utter, absolute solitude in infinite, sightless, soundless space. There seemed to be a void and nothing more, and I felt a childish fear which prompted me to draw from my hip pocket the revolver I always carried after dark since the night I was held up at East Providence. Then from the farthermost regions of remoteness, the sound softly glided into existence. It was infinitely faint, subtly vibrant, and unmistakably musical, but held a quality of surpassing wildness which made its impact feel like a delicate torture of my whole body. I felt sensations like those one feels when accidentally scratching ground glass. Simultaneously, there developed something like a cold draft, which apparently swept past me from the direction of the distant sound. As I waited breathlessly, I perceived that both sound and wind were increasing, the effect being to give me an odd notion of myself as tied to a pair of rails in the path of a gigantic approaching locomotive. I began to speak to Tillinghast, and as I did so, all the usual impressions apparently vanished. I saw only the man, the glowing machine, and the dim apartment. Tillinghast was grinning repulsively at the revolver, which I had almost unconsciously drawn, but from his expression, I was sure he had seen and heard as much as I, if not a great deal more. I whispered what I had experienced, and he bade me to remain as quiet and receptive as possible. "Don't move," he cautioned, "for in these rays we are able to be seen as well as to see. I told you the servants left, but I didn't tell you how. It was that thick-witted housekeeper. She turned on the lights downstairs after I warned her not to, and the wires picked up sympathetic vibrations. It must have been frightful. I could hear the screams up here, in spite of all I was seeing and hearing from another direction. And later, it was rather awful to find those empty heaps of clothes around the house. Mrs. Updike's clothes were close to the front hall switch. That's how I know she did it. It got them all, but so long as we don't move, we're fairly safe. Remember, we're dealing with a hideous world in which we are practically helpless. Keep still." The combined shock of the revelation and the abrupt command gave me a kind of paralysis. And in my terror, my mind again opened to the impression coming from what Tillinghast called beyond. I was now in a vortex of sound and motion with confused pictures before my eyes. I saw the blurred outlines of the room, but from some point in space, there seemed to be pouring a seething column of unrecognizable shapes or clouds penetrating the solid roof at a point ahead and to the right of me. Then I glimpsed the temple-like effect again. But this time, the pillars reached up to an aerial ocean of light, which sent down one blinding beam along the path of the cloudy column I had seen before. After that, the scene was almost wholly kaleidoscopic, and in the jumble of sights, sounds, and unidentifiable sense impressions, I felt I was about to dissolve or in some way lose the solid form. One definite flash I shall always remember. I seemed for an instant to behold a patch of strange night sky filled with shining, revolving spheres, and as it receded, I saw the glowing suns form a constellation or galaxy of settled shape, this shape being the distorted face of Crawford Tillinghast. At another time, I felt the huge animate things brushing past me and occasionally walking or drifting through my supposedly solid body. I thought I saw Tillinghast look at them as though his better trained senses could catch them visually. I recalled what he said of the pineal gland and wondered what he saw with this preternatural eye. Suddenly, I myself became possessed of a kind of augmented sight. Over and above the luminous and shadowy chaos arose a picture which, though vague, held the elements of consistency and permanence. It was indeed somewhat familiar, for the unusual part was superimposed upon the usual terrestrial scene, much as a cinema view may be thrown upon a painted curtain of a theater. I saw the attic laboratory, the electrical machine, and the unsightly form of Tillinghast opposite me. But of all the space unoccupied by familiar material, objects, not one particle was vacant. Indescribable shapes, both alive and otherwise, were mixed in disgusting disarray, and close to every known thing were whole worlds of alien, unknown entities. It likewise seemed that all the known things entered into composition of other unknown things, and vice versa. Foremost among the living objects were great, inky jellyfish monstrosities, which flabbily quivered in harmony with the vibrations from the machine. They were present in loathsome profusion, and I saw to my horror that they overlapped, that they were semi-fluid and capable of passing through one another and through what we know as solids. These things were never still, but seemed ever floating about with some malignant purpose. Sometimes they appeared to devour one another, the attacker launching itself at his victim and instantaneously obliterating the latter from sight. Shudderingly, I felt that I knew what had obliterated the unfortunate servants, and could not exclude the things from my mind as I strove to observe other properties of the newly visible world that lies unseen around us. But Tillinghast had been watching me and was speaking. You see them? You see them? You see the things that float and flop about you and through you every moment of your life? You see the creatures that form what men call the pure air and the blue sky? Have I not succeeded in breaking down the barrier? Have I not shown you the worlds that no other living men have seen? I heard him scream through the horrible chaos and look at the wild face thrust so offensively close to mine. His eyes were pits of flame, and they glared at me with what I now saw was overwhelming hatred. The machine droned detestably. You think those floundering things wiped out the servants? Fool, they are harmless, but the servants are gone, aren't they? You tried to stop me. You discouraged me when I needed every drop of encouragement I could get. You were afraid of the cosmic truth, you damned coward, but now I've got you. What swept up the servants? What made them scream so loud? Don't know, eh? You'll know soon enough. Look at me. Listen to what I say. Do you suppose that there are really any such things as time and magnitude? Do you fancy there are any such things as form or matter? I tell you, I have struck depths that your little brain can't picture. I have seen beyond the bounds of infinity and drawn down demons from the stars. I have harnessed the shadows that stride from world to sow death and madness. Space belongs to me, do you hear? Things are hunting me now. The things that devour and dissolve, but I know how to elude them. And it is you they will get, as they got the servants. Stirring, dear sir? Oh, I told you it was dangerous to move. I saved you so far by telling you to keep still. Saved you to see more sights and to listen to me. If you had moved, they would have been at you long ago. Don't worry, they won't hurt you. They didn't hurt the servants. It was seeing that made the poor devils scream so. My pets are not pretty, for they come out of places where aesthetic standards are very different. Disintegration is quite painless, I assure you, but I want you to see them. I almost saw them, but I knew how to stop. You're not curious? I always knew you were no scientist. Trembling, eh? Trembling with anxiety to see the ultimate things I have discovered? Why don't you move then? Tired? Well, don't worry, my friend, for they are coming. Look, curse you, fool, look. It's just over your left shoulder. What remains to be told is very brief and may be familiar to you from the newspaper accounts. The police heard a shot in the old Tillinghast house and found us there, Tillinghast dead and me unconscious. They arrested me because the revolver was in my hand, but released me in 3 hours after they found it was apoplexy, which had finished Tillinghast, and saw that my shot had been directed at the noxious machine which now lay helplessly shattered in the laboratory floor. I did not tell very much of what I had seen, for I feared the coroner would be skeptical. But from the evasive outline I did give, the doctor told me that I had undoubtedly been hypnotized by the vindictive and homicidal madman. I wish I could believe that, doctor. It would help my shaky nerves if I could dismiss what I now have to think of the air and the sky about and above me. I never feel alone or comfortable. And a hideous sense of pursuit sometimes comes chillingly on me when I'm weary. What prevents me from believing the doctor is this one simple fact: that the police never found the bodies of those servants whom they say Crawford Tillinghast murdered. That concludes From Beyond by H.P. Lovecraft. Well, there you go. That's the end. That's the end of H.P. Lovecraft's From Beyond. Ellie Fant, talk show host, Radiohead. Ellie Fant. Chat's rude. This guy sounds like a joy at parties. Because I'm a crepe. I'm a weird dough. Haha. What the hell am I doing here? Yeah, there you go. I don't belong here. 1920s, fuck around and find out. East Wind. Actually, Tom hates it. Yeah, humans are such easy prey. Dr. Edward Pretorius, From Beyond, 1986. There's some good movies. I think there's 2 or 3 From Beyond movies, I think. Like some really old ones and some new ones. Ellie Fant again with another $5. YouTube would not let me super chat a pair of boobs. Rude. I think you probably need to put spaces between them and make them bigger. I don't know. Manta Ray of Hope, 23. I am here for the Lovecraft. I'm the Love Racks, bringing the Lovecraft. Okay, scrolling through chat here, folks. Lovecraft was a perv. Yeah, he wasn't really a perv. He was just a horrible racist and terrible human being. Catherine Fraser says, you should start all of your streams with a little horror story. It's nice to hear your favorites. You have a good reading voice. Well, thank you very much. But yeah, one a day would be a little too much. But if this is something you like, we can do this occasionally. Jeff brings it to life with his voice. Well, thank you. We're not in curved time anymore. Strawberry has lost her solid form. She's just a lump of gelatinous, squishy flesh. Oh no. Oh no. Jeff, why do you look like you're related to Lovecraft? Are you? No, but I do have the AI picture here. We have the AI morphing of me and Lovecraft. This is HP Loveracks here. I've morphed our 2 pictures together through the power of AI. This is your host tonight, HP Loveracks. Flabbily quivering vibrations. Oh, we're just catching up here. Who else thinks Jeff looks like the great grandson of Lovecraft? I wonder if the great grandchildren have like a shit ton of money for the estate. I hope so. If so, I wish I was one. Angela Halo says, "Oh, I'm digging the vibe and the look. I did not get notified of this fun. Well, we're still here. You can go back and check it out. That's what replay's for." This sounds like the prequel to Hounds of Tyndalus. I'm not familiar with that story. Ah, The Void. I've heard of it. I have not watched it. Yes, I still have heard of it and still haven't watched it. Can you read Unbreaded in the style of H.P. Lovecraft? No, Unbreaded isn't nearly as racist as Lovecraft was. I have a story, says Legal Vices. Thanks. Well, thank you very much for your thanks. I will definitely be checking out your channel. Silent PS. Gonna have some interesting dreams tonight. Oh, I love this Halloween vibe. It's fun. So if this is something you want to do, we can do a repeat on Halloween morning. I want to read. So whatever we do on Tuesday, we're definitely going to be reading The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, one of my faves. Probably my two overall favorite Edgar Allan Poe is the Raven and The Telltale Heart. But I mean, they're all good. Agony Goose with 5 pounds. I melted my servants. Am I the asshole? Let's ask Reddit. Yes, based on the thumbnail, you might be related to Lovecraft. Well, yes, I hope so, because that's an AI rendering of me and Lovecraft together. I rendered it myself. Wait till you see me and Poe on Tuesday. Did Lovecraft write any Christmas stories? That a very Lovecraft Christmas. Tank Rat with the 50 Middle Eastern monies, the 50 AEDs. What do they call it? Are those AEDs like the defibrillators they have like all around hospitals and airports and things? What are they called? They're called AEDs, aren't they? Anyway, thank you so much, Tank Rat. You reading of stories are entertaining, and you definitely can do it better than I can. I end monotone when I read out loud. See, I felt very monotone tonight myself. I was trying not to be monotone. I sort of felt like I was monotone a great deal of the time. Jeff, those are my two favorite Poe stories too. Oh, we're twinners, Flux. We're twinners. Flux, you and Mrs. Flux should visit Poe's grave and such in Baltimore. Oh, that's a goal. That's a bucket list thing for me to visit Poe's grave. Do they still have the guy that like the mysterious stranger person that goes and puts the rose on top of his grave on his birthday every year? Oh, they have. Yeah, because that's the thing. There's like, at least last time I checked 20, 30 years ago, there was someone every year on his birthday who would go and put a rose on top of his grave. And nobody has ever approached the person to find out who they are, what they're doing, or why they're doing it. They've just respected it. So it's kind of like it. At one point, there was like crowds that would gather just to watch this person dressed very Poe-ish go in and place the rose. I was like, Ellie Fan says yes. Oh, that'd be cool. I'm glad someone, because I would assume at some point the person's died or whatnot and someone else has taken over. So I think that's pretty cool. Mexican Vader? What are you saying? The movie Underwater has a Cthulhu-based themed monster through it. Movie's good if you have claustrophobia. Underwater. Haven't seen that one. There's a lot of shit on his grave, lol. Hopefully you mean stuff and not actual shit. That would be disrespectful. The problem is Shelley's Frankenstein is nowhere as cool and interesting as all that material that gave birth to. It's actually no. Oh, I love Mary Shelley's Frankenstein because, weirdly, the biggest Frankenstein failure was, I believe, it was a TV movie, made-for-TV movie with Robert De Niro as the monster. And that was the most accurate to the book. It was very, very accurate to the book, but it failed to attract attention horribly because it wasn't like, I'm Boris Karloff monster. God, God, the Mary Shelley's actual book Frankenstein is such an amazing treatise on what it means to be human, the philosophical question of what it means to be human. What a great book that is. Oh, I disagree with you wholeheartedly on that, Daily Quick Bites. Oh, The Void was produced by the guy who produced I like The Witch. The Witch was a good movie. Twisted Logic. God, that always takes me a long time. Every time I read your name, it takes me a long time to figure it out. For some reason, it took a little extra time tonight. Twisted Logic says, I must say this is extremely enjoyable to listen while I work and clean up my to-dos and finish the week. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Twisted Logic. Come back for more. Good coins, flowers, and pens. Good. And we're happy to have you here. One of these times, the name will just click. I think you mean Shelley's Frankenstein's monster. That's what I said. I said Robert De Niro played the monster. The book is called Frankenstein. Yeah, the Frankenstein, the treatise, it's a great treatise on what it means to be human. Not one mention of Frankenhooker. Well, there was an exploitative movie called the Call Girl of Cthulhu. That was a good one. Young Frankenstein is best Frankenstein. Werewolf, their wolf, their castle. New segment, the Lorax narrates my life. The Void is just as good as The Color Out of Space. Wow. Well, I'm gonna have to watch The Void because people have been chatting about it all night long. So there you go. Oh, Kaiser Pineapple. That is big praise coming from you. Everybody should definitely check out Kaiser Pineapple's channel. He does the cool stuff. He does the cool stuff a lot. Yeah, definitely get over to Kaiser Pineapple and subscribe to him and watch his cool streams. That's high praise coming from me. Thank you so much. This has really made me a very enjoyable Friday chill stream. What's up? What's up, Strawberry? You moving around? I'll play with you in just a minute. All right. It's pronounced Igor. Is this it? I guess we're to the end, aren't we? Yes, Kaiser Pineapple has a great channel and he's fearless. Day of the Triffids was okay. Good film. I'm more of a body snatchers guy, as you could tell from the opening. I'm more of a body snatcher than Triffid. But Triffids were cool. Whew, all right. Well, how did we end up here? The 150 peeps at the end. 329 likes. Hey, if any of you haven't hit that like button, please do. If any of you haven't subscribed and feel that I may have earned a subscription, I'd be happy and thrilled and honored to accept it. Because you guys are awesome. And I love having you here. Oh, we've gained 2 subscribers, but we lost 6 before we gained 2. So War of the Worlds 50s remained. Yes, the original version. The one that scared everybody on the radio. Right. Yes, Kaiser did do this. He did a stream on Wednesday on the true origin of Halloween. That was a very good stream. Yes, please, Kaiser, feel free to drop your link. That was a good stream. Kind of cool. I guess it's there you go. The Edge of Reality, the true origin of Halloween. All right, so let's kind of wrap this up. I think it's time to wrap it up. Our 2-hour stream has gone almost 4 hours. Tomorrow, I will be on. Oh God, it's today for me. It's two 2 o'clock, almost 2 a.m. So 7 hours and a few minutes from now, I will be on Megan Fox's channel, where a large number of us will be doing a dramatic reading of a transcript of a child, like a child custody or child protective services people motion in the Maya Kowalski case. Keep wanting to say Kozlovsky because I know Kozlovsky. So yeah, in the Maya Kowalski case, we'll be doing some readings there. Monday, Maritime Monday. We got a few things to talk about for Maritime Monday. A recent shipping accident off the coast of Germany that has left at least one person dead. Cannibal rat ghost ship. That'll be pretty cool. Talk about a cannibal rat ghost ship. And I want to read another story. A Stephen King story. If I can find it online somewhere. If not, I might just have to buy the Kindle book. A short story about a doctor who found himself shipwrecked on a pile of rocks in the middle of the ocean. Yes, Agony Goose, a cannibal rat ghost ship. We will be there. You ever do any bird law? No. Next Tuesday is Halloween. Probably be doing some more readings if that's what you want. If that's what you want, we'll do some more readings. Have a chill Halloween stream. Wednesday we'll be doing what I swear to God is the final Johnny Depp Amber Heard sidebar. Thursday O.J. Simpson. Friday, I don't know. Oh, I do know Friday. Friday will be a Gosney stream. A week from today will be a Gosney stream. So, all right, folks. I think that just about wraps it up. I want to say a super special thank you to the mods tonight who stuck around here tonight. It's tonight for me. Tonight for even later tonight for some of you and much earlier in the morning for others. Thank you all for being here. I have the best mods ever. You guys are fantastic. Every single one of you. And those of you that left, I don't see Danielle here right now. Danielle, come back and listen to me say what an awesome person you are. And all the other mods that left. Chat. I don't know what to say to you guys. Chat is the best chat. You're the best chat. Vice Racks chat. Or Love Racks chat. The HP Love Racks chat is the best chat. Vice Squad, you guys rock. Thank you so much for the support. It's great to have you here. We'll see you on Megan Fox's stream in the morning. In my morning, your evening, whatever. Just go check her out. And probably next Monday on Maritime Monday. Till then, take care of yourself. Have a super awesome weekend. And whoever you are, whoever you're with, whatever you're doing, just make sure you are always, always, always enjoying your legal vices. And cheers to you all with my very, very last sip of Octomore 7.2 edition that is utterly irreplaceable and can never be shared with anyone again. I'm privileged and honored to be sharing this last drink from this precious bottle with all of you. Cheers. Thanks. Now let's see where we can send you at this point, this time of night. Who, if any, what if anyone is streaming, shall we see? Content, live, Lovecraft Halloween, customization, redirect. Nobody wants to be redirected. So enjoy your legal vices. Larax, oot.